All right, why don't we, even though Commissioner Powell was part of the legislature, why don't we go ahead and get started? Dave, why don't you introduce your team, and we will go from there.
Thank you very much, Mayor Marino, Vice Mayor Baxter, Commissioners. Appreciate you inviting us up here. My name is David Deck. I am the Executive Director of the South Florida Regional Transportation Authority. With me, I brought part of my team. I've got Teresa Moore here, who is our General Counsel. Jeremy Baker is our Director of Finance. Lorraine Cargill is our Director of Planning. Marcus Thomas is Director of Safety and Security. And then last but not least, Director of Operations to make things move is Scott Kenner. So I'll get right into things here, and again, thank you very much for inviting us. I wanted to give a little bit of history of Tri-Rail, a little bit of the rules of what we deal with when we come to what we can and can't do with state-owned property, and then who owns some kind of things around the station, our ridership, and then we'll get into the item at hand. So. Going back in 1986, this line actually was built, in the late 1800s, but in 1986, this line was purchased from CSX. This was originally an airline, Seaboard Airline, then it was Seaboard Coastline, then it was Atlantic Coastline, then it became Chessie System and CSX, and now it is owned by the state of Florida, and that's what brings us where we are now. But in 1986, I said, there was formed the Tri-County Commuter Rail Organization, which was formed to develop a new commuter rail system, really ideally as a temporary project for the I-95 widening. And in 1989, Tri-Rail commuter service was inaugurated. In 1990, we celebrated our 1 millionth rider. And through those years, it was such a success that there was some legislation made to make make Tri-Rail permanent. In 2000, there was a full funding grant agreement with the FTA that was signed to finance double tracking. So originally, when this service started up, it was 20 trains a day. So it was a handful northbound and southbound in the morning, a handful southbound and northbound in the evening, but that was 20 trains a day. That was it. There was quite a bit of single tracking. I think we said there was 13 stations originally. So there was a grant from the federal government to double track the majority of the alignment. There's still about 1.5 miles in Miami-Dade County, just south of our Metro Transfer Station, that is single track. Everything else on this alignment is double tracked with crossovers. And part of that funding agreement was to run 50 weekday trains. In 2003, the Florida legislature created SFRTA to enhance regional cooperation amongst Tri-Rail and the counties, and that we've been working on that ever since. Wanted to put up just a couple maps here because I know railroads, especially since we're very condensed in this part of the state, becomes very confusing. So we have two north-south railroads. In this part of the state, you have the FEC line, which was the original Henry Flagler line, and that is the one closest to the beach. That's the one that runs through the downtowns and Delray and West Palm, and that they also have Brightline that runs on the Florida East Coast Railroad. We are the blue line there. If you look at the map to the right, we are the blue line that is the former Seaboard, former CSX line that the state owns now. And we're the host railroad on that, and we have as tenants CSX Transportation, who enjoys exclusive freight rights on the territory, as well as Amtrak, who runs the entire alignment with 2 southbound trains in the morning and 2 northbound trains in the afternoon. So SFRTA has a couple of functions. One of those, a primary function, is to provide track and signal maintenance to the alignment. So we do operate Tri-Rail, but also what we do is oversee track and signal maintenance on 73.5 miles of main line. And then there's actually about 54 miles of customer industrial spur switching tracks that we also oversee the maintenance of. SFRTA dispatches this alignment, so we have full control over dispatching the trains. We do dispatch CSX as well as Amtrak. And then we operate Tri-Rail on this entire alignment. And then starting last year, we began running over a small portion of the Florida East Coast Railroad into downtown Miami Central Station, making that our 19th station that we share with Brightline. So there's 8 miles that we run on the Florida East Coast Railroad, and we enjoy exclusive commuter rights on the east-west portion of that. Our governing board is comprised of 10 members. We have 3 members from each county. So we have a county commissioner who's serving as our chair of our board, Commissioner Woodward. We have a Palm Beach County representative, which is Hal Valashay. And then we have a Palm Beach County governor's appointee, and we're very pleased. We just have Al Kakachi just joined the board. And then we have 3 from Broward County, 3 from Miami-Dade County, and then a FDOT district secretary who is Steve Braun. Serves on our board. So again, we've been in service for 36 years, 73.5 miles of track. We serve 19 stations. We do connect with 3 airports. We run directly into Miami International Airport. We maintain a bus shuttle that we operate that runs at the Fort Lauderdale Airport station. So if you get on the go to Fort Lauderdale Airport, you walk out. We have a bus there. It's a beautiful bus. And you go out and you can take the bus over to, it runs every 15, 20 minutes, take you right over to the airport. And then here in Palm Beach County, we currently fully subsidize an Uber or Lyft ride from Palm Beach Station into to the Palm Beach International Airport. Our fares, depending on, we have multiple discount packages, but our fares essentially raise from $1.25 is the absolute cheapest fare. We do have some free fares for disabled veterans and things like that, but paying fares is the lowest fare is $1.25. The highest would be a $17.50 round trip if you were running the entire alignment. Our fares are broken up into a zone system that we're going to evaluate later to see if we can simplify. We do run 52 trains a day between Mangonia Park, which is just a little bit north of us here, and we run those into Miami Airport. We run 2 new express trains. We put those on last year, and those express trains run. They're a 1-seat ride in downtown Miami. They stop at Palm Beach. They stop at Boca, Fort Lauderdale Airport, Metro Transfer, and then take you straight into Miami Central and do the same thing in the afternoon coming out. That started as a 1-year pilot. It was fairly successful, so we agreed to pilot that for another year for this budget cycle. On the weekends, we do run 24 Miami Central shuttle trains. So if you take the train on the north-south portion, you get off at Metro Transfer Station, you wait about 3 to 5 minutes, and another train pulls out of the yard and takes you into Miami Central. We made that decision to really prioritize the airport side because when the Miami Central side was envisioned, they envisioned half the trains going straight to Miami Central, half the trains going to Miami. And the Miami International Airport station is so busy and so successful that we switched that and made sure that we protected that Miami station at the airport. We just said, if you're lugging your family and luggage and we start making it hard to take the train, you probably won't take the train. So we wanted to still keep and make sure that ride was as simple and easy and convenient as possible. So our ridership, every couple of years, we're required federally to do some ridership surveys. We actually just went out in 2024 and did an onboard survey. So we went out and ran, I think 3,000 people returned the survey. So these statistics are based on who returned a survey. Again, 37% of these, and I should say these have been consistent. When we've done about the last 10 years of surveys, these statistics stay pretty consistent because I go, really? Did 73% of our riders graduate from college? I don't know. Those are the people who returned the survey. I've ridden our trains. I go, I don't know. But anyway, I just want to make sure that we see. But 83% own an automobile. 69% are choice riders, which is good. We like choice riders. And then for the customer satisfaction, 91% said they would recommend. And we really need to get that up to like a 95 to 96%. I really think that is contingent on us, updating our equipment with the new equipment when it comes up. So, talking about ridership, this was, again, I said that, this was so successful as a temporary project, it became permanent, like a lot of government projects, but this became permanent. And if you look at it, it was based on ridership. So going back to 2009, a little over 4 million people a year. went down to about 20% of total ridership during COVID. And then we are very proud of that we led the country. Between us and Boston, Massachusetts, we led the country in post-COVID recovery. Where most of my peers are still struggling to get to 60 or 80% of their pre-COVID ridership. We've been at 100% of our pre-COVID ridership for quite some time now. We're starting to see a little bit of leveling off, and I think the only way we take that to the next level then is to continue to improve our service with the newer equipment, things like that. But we are extremely proud of the ridership numbers. Wanted to give a little bit of a visual here of the entire alignment. Again, from Mangonia Park down to the airport. We go off on the FEC, the yellow side, that's the FEC railroad there, and that's also where we run the express train. So we do have 6 stations in Palm Beach County. Mangonia Park, West Palm Beach, Lake Worth, Boynton Beach, Delray, and Boca Raton. I won't go through all of these, but I just want to the real highlight here is when we look at the stations, some of the stations we own property around them, some of them we don't own property around them, so it gives us a little bit of what we can and can't do with the stations. A good example, when we get to Boca, we own property there, so we can have TOD opportunities and things like that. But Mangonia Park Station is our 11th busiest station out of 19, with about 223,000 boardings last year. We do take the Bach Middle School kids here in the morning and pick them up in the afternoon. We have the program with the Palm Beach County School Board where we have we do some special work with the students at Bach as well as Dreyfus. But Bach goes to Mangonia Park. The West Palm Beach station, I think, is the one that most of you are most familiar with. This is our 4th busiest station. You can see on the side, that's county-owned parcel, and then we have a small sliver of SFRTA and city-owned, and I know there's been some talk about TOD in this area for quite some time. But we have a lot of multimodal connections here, and then this is where we have the great partnership there with Dreyfus School of the Arts, where we bring the students in there as well. Lake Worth Station, of note, Lake Worth is our #1 bicycle station. So it's our 8th of all ridership. This is by far our #1 station for bicycles. Right next to the high school there, FDOT owns the parking lot under the bridge. Boynton Beach Station, this is an SFRTA owned parcel that we put out for a TOD opportunity 2 years ago, right when the rates were really maxed out, so the projects that we got back weren't really ideal, so we pulled the projects down waiting for maybe the market to come around, because these are very long-term investments. We want to make sure that we're getting the right project in there. We do have a connection with Palm Tran. Boynton Beach is our 13th busiest station. Delray, that has a county-owned parcel there. That's where the government, where your license bureau and everything else is. That's our 14th ranked station. We do have connections. That's an Amtrak station as well as a connection with Palm Tran. Boca Raton is our 6th busiest station. This one is, we have the SFRT owned parcels there. We'll talk a little bit later about the link at Boca. We're very excited about the TOD. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we have great connections there with Palm Tran. We have an FAU shuttle. Boca Raton has a couple shuttles that go in there. This is an incredibly busy station, especially if you come in the morning. It's fun. You've got the students, their parents, me, everybody else trying to get on the train and get through that parking lot. And so I'm for one, am looking forward to when that parking lot and the entrance is redesigned. So maybe we have a little better flow and we're not all fighting with each other, getting out in and out today. It's a good problem to have, but I think we can still make it better. So going through, just want to give a listing here of the boardings, the lightings. Through the Palm Beach County, there, you see there, Mangonia Park's about 5%, West Palm Beach 8% of our total. I think the big number there, it runs off, but Palm Beach County itself represents about 33% of our ridership. So it's almost an even third. And this is just a visualization of Palm Beach County coming out of COVID. Really mirrors what we've seen here system-wide. Here's sped up a little video there of the Dreyfus. It's we like organized chaos. Our guards do a great job. We go to the stations, we have sections that we cordon off. There's chaperones on these trains, and we really love having the students on these trains. Boca's a fun place in the morning when you've got all the Dreyfus kids there. It's fun to watch. And we really try to go the extra mile and make sure that we have a safe, reliable commute, clean and with air conditioning, everything else working for these kids. Because, listen, they're young now, but these might become permanent riders at some point in the future. We need to make a really good impression on them while they're stuck riding us going to school. So I sped through all that to bring us up to where we kind of are now. In 2026, the approved budget for the state of Florida had some big changes as far as SFRTA is concerned. So we get our money from FDOT, which is comes out of the State Transportation Trust Fund. And there were some items in the State Transportation Trust Fund that were changed dramatically in this year's budget. So what's known as a dock stamp, I still don't know what a dock stamp is. I know that I need it. But the dock stamp funds were dedicated to go to the State Transportation Trust. That was moved to the general fund. And the Florida Rail Enterprise was zeroed out. And that was where FDOT used. Those are the funds, the pockets of money that FDOT used to fund us. The statutory funding, the way we interpret it, the way it's been historically interpreted, was $42 million from FDOT. FDOT has interpreted that coming out of this budget cycle at $15 million. A little bit of history in the funding for the counties and FDOT. This is certainly part of our legislation. Requires SFRTA to work cooperatively to look for dedicated funding. We were having conversations with the counties, way before this budget session to see, what does the future look like? Are there opportunities there? This budget session certainly accelerated those conversations and changed the tone of those conversations. But I wanted to make sure that we gave a little bit of the context and the history going back. And so back from 1989 to 2009, the counties, each county was providing $7 million of funding towards SFRTA, and that was lowered by statute to $4.2 million. In 2006, the counties got together and went to Tallahassee, and there was a $2 rental car surcharge that was passed that was to be used for dedicated funding for SFRTA that was ultimately vetoed by then Governor Jeb Bush. Additionally, in 2007, when the FDOT secretary who sat on our board at the time came to our board asking for an endorsement and support for the grant that the state was going after for the express lanes to change the HOV lanes into managed express lanes, and the commitment from that, and actually the support that our board gave was contingent on the commitment that some of that money would come back to SFRTA. When that passed and when it was given, the legislation was actually written to exclude SFRTA from that funding. So that promise didn't come through either. And it really kind of leaves us where we are now. In 2013, SFRTA and FDOT entered into an operating agreement that goes out through June of 2027. We're actually still in the process now of renegotiating and negotiating that operating agreement, but with the funding items that came through the legislature, we've kind of all gone a different direction to try to fix these problems prior to sitting back down to negotiate. In 2014, SFRTA funded a dedicated funding source available to it under Chapter 163 in the event that it operated both Coastal Link and the existing service, looking at TIFs and assorted other funding sources. In 2017, statutory changes to SFRTA's legislation gave FDOT more fiscal oversight and granted FDOT the right to provide 25% of its annual operating subsidy up front. And then added an additional person to our board. 2018 to 2021, SFRTA really aggressively was looking at operating budget deficits and reduced workforce by 25%. Went to a lot of our contractors to try to find some savings through the contracts. And we've kept that staffing level at about that level since then. And then in 2021, the conversations really, because there was COVID funding, the conversations were really stopped. And COVID, we were funded by COVID. We used the funding to bridge the gap. Everybody was happy with that until we get to where the COVID money is going to start to run out. So these conversations were being had, but COVID, though it interrupted everything in life, has certainly, it helped this, but it didn't. But the conversation should have still been had of what do we do after the COVID money runs out. So we look at some options here, and this is when I say that there's rules that we live by. So again, the railroad and the stations, most of the stations are owned by the state. So we looked at options in the past for generating revenue of subleasing portions of the stations. Can you put amenities in there? Can you put concessions in there? Can you put things like that? And then it's the process is by statute that we have to provide FDOT with the fair market value of the space that they're using. And that's a process. So you go and you get it evaluated and you get a price back, and the price is only good for so long. And by the time you put that out in RFP, the price has expired. It just becomes this cycle of not being able to do it. There's opportunity on this line for leases for fiber optic lines. It's very common in the railroad. There are fiber optic lines on this railroad now. But FDOT has that full authority and maintains that full authority to lease those fiber optic lines and that. As far as advertising, historically, we've made requests to advertise on our bridges, the overpasses. Those have been denied. We can advertise on the trains. We put a new wrap on the train that is specifically designed to accept an advertising wrap over it. But for all intents and purposes, we can't advertise in the stations. Pedestrian bridges. We have a project ongoing right now that is rehabbing pedestrian bridges, 13 of them. It's a very expensive project. With pedestrian bridges comes elevators that are very expensive to maintain, which we have an elevator project in the future, about $13 million that we're going to have to spend. And we have Mangonia Park pedestrian bridge that was past the point of repair. So we've removed that bridge and we have a temporary pedestrian bridge in there. And so we requested that we could replace the rest of pedestrian bridges with at-grade, fully treated, crossings and lights and everything else, at-grade crossings. And FDOT in central office has taken a legal position that no more crossings are allowed on this alignment, that we have to maintain the overhead bridges. And that's an expense. I think our customers like a pedestrian at grade better. It's at a savings, but we have a very different interpretation. There's two different definitions of a crossing in code, but we'll argue about which one of those is going to. But at the end of the day, FDOT owns the railroad. TODs, we own four of the. We have opportunities at 4 of our 19 stations for TODs. There is an interesting thing. So at some point when the contract with CSX gets renegotiated, there's a 50-foot setback. That's when CSX signed this over in 1986. I could say this was one of the first properties that CSX was signing over for passenger rights, and they were much more restrictive then than they are now. I can say that confidently. So this 50-foot setback may be something with CSX that's negotiable, because this would allow much more TOD opportunities. So especially if you look at our places like Hialeah Market, where it's a very constrained properties, if you can add 50 feet onto that, it makes it much more viable for somebody to come in there and build something. So just so you can see there, Boynton Beach, Boca, Cypress Creek, and then Metro Transfer Station are the properties that we own, that we have the full opportunity to install TOD. So it's not a lot of them. And I think I want to point out for everybody, Cypress Creek, though it is an enormous parking lot, that when I look at it, I just can't wait to put something bigger there. It's in the flight path. So we were stuck at 3 stories is the maximum. And it's also been recently rezoned away from residential. So it's, that when I look at that Cypress Creek is really not going to be beneficial for TOD. However, we do have, we are very excited here probably at the very beginning of 2026 to break ground on a link at Boca. We do own the property at Boca Raton, and it has been under contract, and we're working very well with our friends at 13th Floor Investment. It represents a 90-year lease with the beginning as a $567,000 annual rent. There's escalators built into that over time. 340 residents, 34 affordable, 17 workforce, 30,000 square feet of retail. And this was actually the first in the country. There's a loan through the Build America Bureau that's known as a RIF loan. It's a Railroad Infrastructure Improvement Loan. And it's good for, if you want to build crossovers or bridges or things like that, but also buried in there is it's available for financing of transit-oriented development. 13th Floor worked very hard. They became the first in the country to be approved for a TOD loan for this link at Boca. So we are very excited about that. And we wanted to bring in here and talk about, operating costs. Rail is expensive. So we measure ourselves according to, the National Transit Database. The FTA very, meticulously lines out how we measure passengers. There's a bunch of different ways. And we absolutely comply with that. We put two sections here because the 2024 NTD data is our listing up top there where you see it just alone. And then we wanted to put 2023 because that was the last year that's available through the federal government for us to look at our peers. So we wanted to be able to give you, our most recent information. We have that, but the peer information there, and you can see there, we are roughly in line with our peers. Utah Transit Authority. I was just out there not too long ago, trying to see what the secret sauce is. It's a mixture of a lot of things. They're an enormous agency. They run buses and light rail and commuter rail. They do everything internally, so they don't contract out there. And then they were actually very fortunate that a lot of the infrastructure they have an engine facility that looks like a small city that was basically gifted to them by the UP. So that was, that'd be nice to have. They can do a lot of work there that we can't do. But you can see our peers at Sunrail, VRE, South Shoreline runs from, now run from South Bend into Chicago. Caltrain in San Francisco, Metrolink in Los Angeles. These are some of our peer agencies that are kind of most like us. We use these when we look at all kinds of comparisons as far as spending, costs. We work very well, with these folks and try to see what people are doing differently. It's a worn out phrase, but I have to say, like, if you've seen one transit agency, you've seen one transit agency, because we're all different a little bit, right? So, VRE, they don't maintain their railroad. CSX still maintains that railroad. The South Shoreline, everything is wholly internal. Caltrain they just electrified, so these numbers are all going to change completely because of an enormous investment. Metrolink is really desperately trying to recover ridership. They actually have 500 miles, where we have 80 miles of tear, they have 500 miles of railroad and only 2,000 more passengers than us a day. So that's when you see those. They're very much looking forward to the Olympics to get people back on trains and get but just so that we had those comparisons. Another thing I think is very important to understand for our operating model. Just short of 90% of all of our expenses are wrapped up in contracts. We have about 12% of G&A. That's, our staff, my staff, our building. But most of these are wrapped up in contracts. So we have various contractors. We have a company called Herzog that, it operates the trains. Those are our conductors, engineers, dispatchers. They do the maintenance of equipment. And then we have a contractor called Transdev, and they are responsible for the maintenance of the track, maintenance of the signals, and most of the positive train control maintenance. We have contracts for fuel. We have a contract with Allied Security. They do, we do fare checks in the station, fare checks on the train. That's all through Allied Security. And we have Aptum, who is our environmental, which is When I started railroading, we didn't have an environmental department. We do now, everybody does, but we didn't care back when I was in the dinosaurs when I was here. And then we have the feeder bus at Fort Lauderdale Airport Station, and then our first mile, last mile. So I say all that we want to make sure we understand that like 90% of I can't just go out and start reducing 50% of my costs. However, that brings us to what we've been working on for several years now, is restructuring these contracts, and I'll get into that a little bit more in a second. This is an overview of our approved budgets from 24-25 as in finals. This 24-25 still says projected because we just closed that out, so we're still paying some bills there, but that is absolute directionally correct there. So we were budgeted at $151.5 million. We came in at $141.6 million. We submitted actually a budget for this fiscal year 25-26 with a $2.5 million reduction in the budget, and we expect to work very aggressively to make sure that we come in under that budget. You can see there some of our revenue sources with the FDOT. We get $4 million a year from the Highway Association, as long as there's an orange cone. So if anybody complains about construction on 95, like I like construction on I-95 because as long as somebody's working on it, I get $4 million a year. So we get $4 million from the federal government for that, and then you can see the various COVID fundings with the CARES, CRISA, ARP that will all be run out this year. So we will expend all of the COVID funding this fiscal year. So for the last 3 years, we've been working very hard. It has been a strategic move that we've made to improve this railroad, not only for the benefit of our customers and our riders and our neighbors, but also to benefit us when we're restructuring these contracts. So we extended the TransDev contract out 3 years to marry it up with the Herzog contract, so that we would go out we were actually planning on being out on the street this month with a large bundled contract that brings all of those services in. And when we look at, this is just some highlights of the work that we've done on the railroad over the last 3 years, but there was intention and purpose behind what we've done. So when you put one of these bundled contracts out there, there's a handful of big companies that do this. You have the Herzogs and the TransDevs, Alstom. You have Amtrak dabbles in this once in a while. DB is trying to come into the United States from Europe. Who am I for? I'm with Keolis and Keolis. So there's 6 real main players. Every time you put them out, there'll be a couple smaller people that partner up. But what they do when you put these out is they send all their experts, and they've got experts. And they come in and they would go through all of your equipment, top to bottom, sideways. They go through your entire railroad. They go through your signal system. They go through your stations and everything else. And they benchmark the condition of your railroad. And they price accordingly. They price in case you make them bring that railroad up to the place where it should be. They'll always hope that you don't, because that's where the money comes in. But they will price it. So if I have a railroad that is a grade C, they're going to price it to bring it up to a B or an A. That's going to be built into those prices. So what we've worked on here for the last 3 years is to build this railroad up to the best railroad that we could possibly present, so that we don't have those monies baked in. That has been the goal. That has been what we've been working towards. And we've been working, my staff will look at and probably agree, relentlessly on completing projects and cleaning up and improving this railroad. So this is just some highlights. This is this is really the icing on the cake. But we've gone and removed all the graffiti, reinstalled all the fencing. We work with the local municipalities and the counties and everything else to help homeless people go someplace else. They can't live here. Like, we will hit them. If they're here, we will eventually hit them. And we don't want them here. So we worked with them and the vegetation, the fencing. We 38 crossing projects. $18 million just on road crossing improvements. Over the last 3 years, we have put $90 million. $90 million into this railroad over and above the basic maintenance contracts, simply to bring it up to that standard of where we want to put it when we put these contracts out. The equipment. So up there, the top corner, I guess that's your left too. Those are our Brookville locomotives. We have 12 Brookville locomotives that we've been rebuilding. Again, when these contractors come in, they're going to look at your equipment and benchmark your equipment. So we've been rebuilding. We have 8 of them rebuilt. It's basically from the deck up, so the entire engine, the head end power engine, the emissions, everything up from that top end, so that when they come in, they're evaluating, they see we have better equipment. We have 8 of the 12 done now. The last 4 are in some semblance of rebuild, so we are on schedule on that project. The second one up there is our floors. We've taken our cab cars, gutted out the floors, and put new flooring in, fixed the bathrooms. We're fixing the lighting, going through and working on through all of those. You see the new wraps there, the signal houses, the flooring. It's everything here has been to present a much better railroad than what we used to have. You can see the bottom row there. He's working in the signal house. All those crossing upgrades that FDOT has been very generous. The federal government has been very helpful, and we've donated money. We've contributed money of our own. That wasn't the right word. We've contributed money of our own, but that's making sure we have all the latest crossing predictors. Getting rid of all the old antiquated GCP 3000s and 4000s up to XP4s. I know this is all jargon, but when you go to Yamato Road, when that gate comes down, you want there to be a train. And when the train clears, you want the darn gate to go back up. And that's what we're really, that reliability is what we need. It improves for not just my customers, but everybody who's using the roads. And then you see that in your safety numbers, because people understand that when the gates come down, there really is a train. So as a result of some of the changes with our funding, we've had to put some projects on hold. The pedestrian bridge rehabilitation is going forward. That's a safety item. We've been told we can't put in at-grade crossings. That project is going forward. I'm on the fence right now with the elevator project. We have money fully funded to basically build new elevators in most of our stations. We had $40 million set aside for station rehabilitation. If you've been to our stations, I think everybody would agree that they need it. You need to come in here and do a rehab and bring them up to a standard that we want to have with, roofing and gutters and paint and stucco and all those things. That project is on hold. The new rolling stock purchase. This is probably the one that scares us the most. We were one of 6 agencies in the country. We were awarded the first ever round of rolling stock replacement grants from the federal government with $70.7 million that we have coupled with money from the TPAs, from the county. We were going to make a $200 million rolling stock purchase. That represents about 30% of our equipment, 7-8 new engines, 24 new coaches, 7 new cab cars, brand new, beautiful, state-of-the-art. We were leveraging some contracts from some of our partner agencies who do this all the time. And we've had to put those on hold. We were planning on taking actually the locomotive procurement to our board in June, and we were planning on taking the coach procurement to our board last month. But because our financial situation and our longevity is dire, we don't have that guaranteed dock stamp money, those things, that recurring funding. We can't enter into long-term recurring contracts. So the Herzogs of the world or the Alstoms or whoever aren't going to sign a 10-year deal with us if they're not sure we're going to be around. We're in the air on a new fare collection system. We have to buy something. We are right now, when our system is tied to Miami-Dade County. When Miami-Dade went out and bought a big fare collection ticket vending machines, we partnered with them years ago. Those vending machines will be sunsetted in a year and a half. We were planning on going out for a separate procurement so that we could control our own ticket prices and control what we do with the vending machines, what the amounts are, what tickets are available. We may not be able to do that now. We may do something with a back office and then still partner with Miami-Dade on a vending machine or vice versa. We have a little bit of time to figure that out, but not much. So it's and then the northern layover facility, which I guess is going to be it's hugely important to the people here in Palm Beach County. The northern layover facility was a piece of property that we own just north of our Mangonia Park Station. We are completing plans for a light maintenance facility up there that would house about 8 train sets, have a full light maintenance, full pit, train wash, everything, and really take some of the pressure off the Hialeah yard. That project is right now on hold as well because we don't know what the future looks like. That would have allowed us to move those locomotives that we keep now here in downtown Palm Beach, West Palm Beach, and get those out of there, which I know the neighbors would have enjoyed. So those are some of the projects that right now, because of our situation, are on hold. I know I said a lot, and do you want me to take questions now, or do you want to wait till you're...
Just going to try to wrap this up, Mayor, very quickly so that we can hear from you. And I have some additional notes that I've included in your backup information, and don't want to give you a presentation on it. I will put it up on the board. There's just a couple of charts I want to point out to you that I think are important because these are the notes that have collectively been developed by Palm Beach, Dade, Broward County staff and the conversations that we've been having with DOT and FDOT relative to the situation that we're in today. And I do want to point out and say thank you to Bridget Oaklich and John Kramer, who are here with us in the back of the room from DOT today. They've been working with us every step of the way. Steve Braun's out of town this week and not able to be here. But there's about 3 charts that I just want to share with you that I think are important for our discussion today. The first of those is just the issue of cost categories. So of this $149 million, right, what is the operating piece of this? About $90 million is what it takes to operate the train line for this. The state gives $60 million of that today. We provide about $11.7 million in that, but the real delta in this between that $90 million operation and what the state provides today is about $30 million. So that's an important number to think of. The other chart I wanted to show is this $49.3 million. So what is that? I mean, that's what we roughly estimate what it would cost if we, the county, and the tri-counties decided we don't want to operate Tri-Rail any longer. The state is still obligated to maintain that corridor. They have contracts that they work with Amtrak, CSX. So roughly $49.3 million is what it would cost to maintain the baseline corridor operations. And that doesn't include who manages that and what it costs to manage. And those are all contracted services that SFRTA contracts today. So there's two slides that we've just wanted to share some scenarios with you. So all things being constant here, the two that aren't are what that total FDOT contribution is. So if you just look at that line across, 49.3, 42.1, and 15. 49.3 is what we say is the baseline of what it would cost to maintain that. So if we were talking, and as we're talking to FDOT, we're saying, we think it costs you about $49.3 million. They have other ideas. It might not be that number if we don't have passenger rail, but somewhere within that range. And so that gives us a scenario at that contribution from the state. Local governments might be required to pay an additional $1.2 million at that. The next line shows what we think the statutory obligation of DOT's contribution, which is $42.1 million. And under that funding scenario, if they said, okay, we'll continue to pay that today, the delta that would potentially fall back to local governments is $8.4 million collectively amongst the 3 counties. And then the $15 million on the last column is what DOT is saying, well, we think that our statutory obligation is really $15 million. So that leaves that $35.5 million delta to be made up. And then finally here on this chart, we just show similar to what we did with the other 3 scenarios, but this would be if we say to Dave and to RTA, hey, look for as many operational efficiencies as you can. 10% of your operation is $15 million, so that second row down represents a $15 million efficiency reduction across the board, and then all other numbers being the same, a 0, a 0, and a 20.5 under those same 49 million, 42 million, and 15 million funding scenarios of what we've estimated to be the obligations of the Department of Transportation. Finally here, just on the considerations, and as we as county staff have been talking to DOT and SFRTA are just a few items that we have of what those future considerations might be. How we generate new fares and revenues and concessions, how we look at efficiencies, consider integrating certain services with existing providers, looking at FDOT to fund the capital needs and liabilities, that baseline component of it, transferring assets like the TODs that we talked about that don't exist so that we might have those opportunities to develop on that corridor in the future. Optimize the cost allocations between all users, CSX and Amtrak. We don't know exactly what those contracts look like. They're directly with the state, but is CSX paying too little? Are we paying so much more? Those kinds of questions we can dig into. And then continuing to look at how we maybe increase other participation from other stakeholders like municipalities and other folks along the corridor. So I just wanted to share with you the notes and the discussions that we've been having. I will end by saying that one thing that we have done, and in Miami-Dade, obviously the Speaker of the House is from Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County has been engaging with the Speaker of the House in conversations about, is this something that can be fixed in the next legislative session? He has indicated a willingness to want to work with us on that, so we are hopeful that there is an opportunity as we venture to Tallahassee to do that in January and February of next year. So those have been the discussions we've been having with DOT. That's why we've only been talking about FY26, just because we felt pretty strongly that we didn't necessarily now want to look too much farther into the future, particularly if we felt like there was an opportunity in Tallahassee to make some of those changes. So those are some of the discussions that we've been having collectively with the three counties, DOT and SFRTA. And thank you, and available to answer any questions.
Before we do that, Commissioner Woodward, you're the chair. I was the chair, then now you're the chair. Do you want to, is there anything you'd like to add, being that you see this firsthand?
Thank you, Mayor. We just had a board meeting on Friday, so I had a lot to say then, I think. For my fellow board members, I think what I would like to hear from you, taking off my chair hat and be county commissioner, because, you know, it is both. One delineation I think is really important for us to understand is SFRTA, South Florida Regional Transportation Authority, was created to operate this portion of rail for the state of Florida and also operate the commuter rail, which became Tri-Rail. What we need to have the discussion on, it's the two parts of this. So the line, as you mentioned, CSX is a freight line. Amtrak is everybody knows Amtrak. Both of those use the same line and have contracts with the state. We are not privy to those contracts. There's money in them. We don't know what they are as us, because the contracts are with the state. The contracts that we have, that we operate for the state, are, I think, is it 5 or 6? It's maintenance of way, dispatch, signalization. It's all the things that have to happen on this line, no matter if one train runs on it or 100 trains run on it. This is an obligation that the state has when they own this line. So the 49.3 slide and the 42.2 million, that this part of it, we need the state to come back, in the next session. The legislator's going to have to work on this, and, the governor's going to have to agree to it. I mean, this is not a done deal. And even though I do believe that the willingness is there in Tallahassee to fix this particular problem. However, if this gets resolved the way that I think it will, and should, because they're going to have to keep this line open, whether we have Tri-Rail on it or not. Once that gets resolved, FDOT still, and the state is still going to be looking to the counties for more participation in the operations of Tri-Rail. That is the number that and we had a conversation last night, I spoke with both of them, that is the number that we need to have a better understanding for. Because if this line is going to stay open into the future, and FDOT wants to divest themselves of any part of the operations of Tri-Rail, not the line, but Tri-Rail, then that is where we need to kind of have an understanding. That's the dollar amount that's going to be coming for us. Now, when these conversations started, shortly after I got onto the board, I'm sure you were part of it, we knew that the state wanted the counties, the 3 counties together, to pick up more of this tab. And the conversations were, we thought in this coming year, they were looking at like 10 million spread over 3 counties. Then the number was being told to us within 3 years, 30 million each county, $90 million for the 3 counties, which I believe is counting for this 49 million in here that is the operation of the line. I do not believe that we are responsible for unless there is a renegotiation with the state and then we own the line. That's the only way this even makes sense. And that's a question we would have to, all 3 counties have to answer. Do we want to own 90 miles of rail through this area? And then we have contracts with CSX, we have contracts with Amtrak. This is an authority that is created as a pass-through for those contracts. So not to try to get too bogged down into the weeds with this, but it is important, and for those listening, to understand the difference in SFRTA, which is the pass-through, the operating entity that keeps that line open, and a subset of that, which is the operations of commuter rail, Tri-Rail. I would, and I'd love to hear what everyone has to say and any questions you have on it, but from my perspective as county commissioner, the only way I see us being able to move forward to find funds that come out of our dollars, and Miami-Dade and Broward both have transportation surtaxes, so they have dedicated funding that we do not have. So however this funding comes from us, that's a question, that's a discussion we're going to have. And we are going to have to decide, do we want to take over this entire burden, or is it an opportunity? We would have ownership of stations. However, that's still the part of this discussion, and I do believe, and my purview would be that FDOT maintains the line. This is equivalent to them saying we run a bus on I-95, so well now you have to pay for the maintenance of I-95. That's how I view what they're asking from us. FDOT, if they would like to weigh in, I know Mr. Braun's not here, he's on our board, and he's, the marching orders come from above on this. But we don't own the line. I don't know that we want to own the line. I don't know that any of our counties to the south want to own this line and be responsible for operating rail. Operating our commuter is a different part of the conversation for us to get to, and that is something we have to answer to all of us together and to our voters. Do we see value in it? And also, can we renegotiate the terms with FDOT on the commuter rail? Because right now, he mentioned to you what we can and cannot do with our stations, advertising, adding concessions. I mean, certain things like adding concessions to our stations, it's not just about revenue, which there would be some revenue, but it's an improvement. It's an amenity for riders. It could actually, we get compared with Brightline all the time, and we can't even discuss options to get us closer to anything Brightline is allowed to do, because we have to go to Tallahassee and get permission, and the process is very long, and then it falls apart. So there's a number of opportunities that we do have, and that I think that is where we can get back into discussions with the state. If the counties are coming to the table with some money to operate the commuter rail separate from the operations of the line, because I believe that, in my full opinion, that is a state responsibility because they own it. But operating of the line, that is the discussion, and those are the questions. Please, we have all of our experts here. Ask them the questions, get to the ridership numbers, get to the possibilities. And, Broward MPO just paid for a new app, a South Florida, SoFlo Go. Is that right?
Roll off the tongue. SoFlo Go.
SoFlo Go, which actually ties in PalmTran and the Broward bus system, the Miami-Dade bus system, and Tri-Rail, so that our riders can actually use this. It just launched like a couple weeks ago. But our counties to the south are putting, other stuff into this, and I do believe that there's a desire to keep this. Tri-Rail going away would be very bad for traffic. It just would. It's said that it's the equivalent to a lane of I-95. And imagine, and I am the last exit before Broward. When I get on at Palmetto Park, trust me, there is a wall of traffic coming north of us. If that's an additional lane coming north, I don't even want to think about it. So I do see the value in it. Can the improvements be made? Absolutely. And for us to even get up to Palm Beach Gardens, that crossover he talked about that's now being put on hold, that's something that could extend this, up into Gardens and into Jupiter. It's possible. We're there. We could get there. And just to put everyone out there, if dreams were to come true, we could have a stop at Belvedere with a people mover that's an airport stop for PBI, the same way that Miami-Dade has. And if you've ever taken Tri-Rail to Miami Airport, if that were here, I mean, it would be a game changer for a lot of us. So I've said enough. I'd like to hear what everyone else has to say, but just do understand there's two parts to this. There's SFRTA paying for contracts for the state to keep the line open, and then there's the discussion on Tri-Rail, which is the commuter rail, runs through 19 stops. There you go. Was that good enough?
That was great. Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. There's a lot to unpack, and thank you, Mr. Deck, for your presentation. Took a few notes before we get into my thoughts. I just have a couple of questions. When you talked about the express trains, 2 express trains, 52 trains a day, you're counting north and southbound, so there'd be 25 trains southbound, 1 express southbound, 1 express northbound, 25. Okay. And I did have an opportunity to ride the Tri-Rail recently. Beautiful trains, beautiful trains.
Did you get your ticket checked?
I did.
Your ticket?
I did. And guess what? There was someone who was getting ready to get on the train, and that person didn't have a ticket. And it was interesting. They said, "Hey, can I see your ticket?" And the person said, "You need a ticket to get on this train?" There's a song that says, "Don't need no ticket, just get on board." And she didn't, so she didn't have a ticket, she had to get off. But that's neither here nor there. Cameron Avenue, that particular location, the elevator was out. Is that elevator still out? And when you were talking about investing in?
It is not still out. That elevator was out for, I think, 2 days.
Okay.
And we had to run some new wiring to it. But that is definitely, the elevator project was one of the projects we were most looking forward to. Because what we do now, because as part of to expedite our pedestrian bridge project, we put in a lot of these at-grade pedestrian crossings. Understanding, though, that not all trains stop at the stations and things like that. So when we open up those crossings, we put security at those crossings to make sure people can cross safely. We've actually lowered the speed of the trains, so Amtrak and CSX have to slow down when they're approaching those crossings. But that allowed us to work on more bridges than one at a time. So when we do have an elevator outage like that, we open that crossing up. If we have one at that station, so that we can get people back and forth, because we really need to, we don't want to single track the whole time, because that just throws off the whole schedule.
Okay. You indicated that once someone gets to West Palm Beach and they want to go to the airport, it's a fully subsidized Uber ride. How does that work?
So and you can apply for, you have to have an Easy Card, and it might have people who know this much better than me. You have to have an Easy Card, and then you can go to our website and download a thing to put the money into your Uber wallet. And then that shows an Uber wallet, and that's the only station that does the full, it's $15 to ride us. That's the only station we'll pay $15 so we can maintain that. But so you go to our website, and there's instructions on how to have that and download it and then get it into your Uber wallet so that you're qualified for it.
Okay. Do you have that or something similar to that in Fort Lauderdale as well?
So at Fort Lauderdale, we have a bus that we run there. So we run buses in a circle. There's just not enough people at Palm Beach to have that bus. We'd love to. The cost of the Uber for there is far cheaper than the bus.
Thank you for that. In terms of the frequency of the trains and them continuing to run, and I know you talked about new stations and the like, I want to piggyback to, and maybe the vice mayor will answer this or get into this question, but she did talk about, and this is the trains overall, the truckloads of aggregate that want to come through downtown. Mm-hmm. So if you get a chance, I just want to know how we'll handle that. And when we're talking about subsidizing Todd and maybe a 15% efficiency, exactly how does that work? The chairwoman for I want to say SFRTA or Tri-Rail, Commissioner Woodward had indicated that we could potentially end up running this. Mr. Deck, how would that work? Is that something that we would have to go through and would have to be done statutorily, Todd, Mr. Deck?
Yeah, there would have to be, so there's language in the statute. There's existing language in the statute that says, if the state is taken to a cost of zero, that assets will be conveyed. It's very vague language, but it's there. But that language had to be it had to be fleshed out and specified to everything. What are the assets? Is it just the track? Is it the track and stations? Is it the track and station and the adjacent property? Is it the air rights? Is it the lease rights? Like all of that would have to be negotiated with FDOT and have to be codified statutorily.
So I guess my last question or comment would be that a lot of this ultimately would depend on the state. I'm not going to say that sometimes the legislature can be short-sighted, act hastily. I would never say that. But they had 100 and I don't know how many days session, and they ended up doing the budget within a week, and vetoes and all those things were done. So Administrator Bonlair knows that, and I trust that there will be some changes in the next legislative session. What those look like, our team will have to work on it. But like you, I guess we will look at potentially 2026 and then go through session and figure out what that looks like, because this isn't uncommon that the legislature cuts funding somewhere and then comes back and reissues or reapportions certain amounts of funding. But this leaves a lot to be desired. And as you indicated, the number of cars that are coming off of the road because of Tri-Rail, I don't think it's something that we are willing to lose, but it's definitely something that I don't think we could afford to fund to the tune of $30 million. So those are just some of the thoughts and comments that are just circling in my head right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores.
So first of all, I do ride the train. I use it usually to either go to Fort Lauderdale Airport or Miami, and I think it's extremely convenient. I do drive by it every once in a while, and I see that a lot of people are using it. And you mentioned that the Lake Worth is the number one in bikes.
Yes.
I also see that a lot in my district. So. And I'm assuming the reason, and by the way, I see a lot more electric scooters, a lot more getting on there. I see a lot of people with suits that are using the electric scooter. So when I see that on your survey, you had educated people riding the train, yeah, because they're going to work. So I'm a big fan of Tri-Rail to the extent that I prefer over Brightline. The prices of Brightline are a little steep, I think, for the workforce. If you had to rely on Brightline to get up and down to work, I think that would be extremely prohibitive. While Tri-Rail is very cost effective. When you guys were highlighting some of the opportunities lost, I think that's a real issue when we're talking about not being able to provide convenience for people, concession stands and so on. It's a shame that we can't partner with the state to be able to provide a better experience for our riders. I mean, when I've written it, I know that there's vending machines, but that's about the extent of it. I think we have something here, sort of like a hidden gem that could be made so much better. I think we should be in line to compete with Brightline. When it comes down to the money aspect, if you can move the scenario 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, right here. So I think that the first thing that needs to be done is decipher that magic number of the FDOT contribution. I think that's a a legitimate argument that we have, and it sounds like the experts have sort of said this is what it costs to run that aspect, and then we decipher the rest. My question is, when are they going to make this determination of the 49, 42, or the 15, which they think it's what they're fair?
Yeah, so, Madam Mayor, if I may, and Mr. Deck can also chime in on this too. So, Tri-Rail's made it very clear to the state that they believe that at a minimum, the statutory obligation is $42.1 million. I think their general counsel here would agree with that. They've opined on that, and we fall in line in that same sense. DOT's come forward with that $15 million number, even after having, I think, agreed over a period of time. They've been contributing this amount, and so I think that conversation has been a very flexible one that we've been having back and forth with them. As we've been having that discussion about what that is, they've been asking us, well, show us what your plan is. Share with us a plan to contribute more and bring up the local contributions to a higher level. And so we've been very cautious in those discussions with them about doing that, just because, number one, we still feel like Tallahassee is a strong option for us to look at this and to see at least if there's an opportunity to make some changes. But also, as we look at FY26, I mean, we know that we've got a budget that Tri-Rail has put forward already. We know they've got federal funding they need to spend down. So I think what that does mean is that it just is extending this conversation a little bit longer between us and the state, and in terms of anybody putting a marker on the table and saying, okay, this is where we're at and this is what we're going to give you. I mean, we've shared this presentation with DOT, and they've given us a little bit of feedback, but I don't think they're willing to say, well, we're willing to do this much more or this much less, either than the 15 or the 42, if y'all would do this. So we've had about 3 discussions with them at the table on that. Our most recent one was diving into this a little bit more, but I think we're still a little bit away from getting from them where they might land, particularly if we're not coming forward and saying we want to contribute more in FY27 or 28 or 29, or here's a longer term plan, which at the moment the 3 counties don't think that we're in a position to do that yet.
So what you're saying is this is not happening next year, but it could happen within the next 3 years.
Well, DOT would like for it to happen now, right? So that is their direction to us.
So could that
in the
potentially
discussions.
happen?
So they're saying, hey, we might only contribute X amount this year. So that's a strong possibility. I mean, that's been their position. And that's why, we've been sitting at the table with them and having a lot of conversations amongst the Tri-County area, because I think, as Commissioner Woodward said, we do find value in Tri-Rail. We do think it's important to our counties and to our commuters. But that's where we're at, and I think the direction here is, we're at that point now. This is the first public conversation that's happening before one of the 3 boards of county commissioners in the Tri-County area on this issue, right? So a lot of folks are looking at us today to say, okay, where is Palm Beach at, and what kind of direction are they going to give to staff, and in these conversations about next steps and where we go in the negotiations. So that's a little bit of
Sorry, I asked the mayor's permission if I could. As far as Mr. Deck, as I understand it, in our current budget, we have been told by FDOT the 15 million is all that we get in this year, and we're told to use reserves, federal, whatever, to make up the difference. So in the current budget, that ours starts October 1 as well.
We're July.
We started July, I'm sorry, different budget cycles. So we started our budget in July, and we are using reserves and whatever COVID money is left to make up the gap that FDOT zeroed out.
So, yeah.
So we only received 15 this year?
We haven't received anything yet. 0.
We're expecting,
We were expecting 62. The JPA that we brought to our board before the budget, and the JPAs are always subject to the budget, in all fairness. But FDOT presented JPA to us for $62 million. And then when the budget went through, we fully expected the statutory minimum of $42 million. And then I was told that the statutory minimum is being interpreted as $15 million. From our standpoint, from at least our, strategic standpoint, we can hope things get fixed in Tallahassee. That's great. Like, we can hope that, but hope's not our strat. Like, we have to plan for something else. Our contract with the state runs through July of 2027. July or June? June of 2027. We can operate until June of 2027. We will exhaust our COVID relief funds this year. If nothing changes, we'll exhaust our COVID relief funds this year. We'll exhaust our reserves next year, and we'll have enough to pay, the pension liabilities and benefits that our employees have, and we're done. Like, that's it. We can cut weekends out. That buys us a couple days. I can cut my entire staff off. That buys us 6 weeks. So, like, that's not the long-term solution. And I don't speak. I certainly do not speak on behalf of the state, but I feel comfortable saying that the state is waiting for the counties to make an offer. They're standing firm on this $15 million, waiting for an action from the counties.
Thank you. I think that should have been the lead part on the PowerPoint. A lot to think about here, but I will echo Commissioner Woodward's comments. I think if we are going to be carrying the burden, or a large portion of the burden, then we need to have ownership, and we need to be able to monetize on opportunities. I think we should operate anything like a business, and if there is a way to offset and to bring dollars in, we should do that. And I think about having concessions and advertising and being able to make the experience better will improve ridership. It will also bring in a different group to be able to utilize the train. We saw 500 kids use that ride every single morning. What are we going to do to parents? Make them trek across the county to be able to drop their kids off? I think this is a real issue, something that we have to work through. But I think those are my early opinions. Would love to hear from Broward and Miami as well as my board. But I think that there's an opportunity here that's staring us right in the face, which is monetizing the experience. And why can't we do that? Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple questions regarding your ridership. So when you're looking at Palm Beach County ridership, is there a difference between sort of north-south ridership? Do you have that information?
We have that. It's very negligible. If you go year over year, I mean, I think when you go, we have the boarding and the lighting by station in here. But for the most part, anybody who's riding south is eventually coming back up and riding north. So the numbers are almost matched up. I don't know if that's answering your question.
Well, it was a little more trying to understand. Are they, are the people coming? Are they leaving the county and going down to Fort Lauderdale and Broward? Are they staying within the county? What are they doing?
So. Yeah, a lot of them are going to the airport, but we have a good mix either way. When you look at the north-south of the stations, and
you should be able to tell from the ticket sales.
We have that information from the ticket sales. It's I would say that Palm Beach County the majority of Palm Beach County is going south in the morning and coming back north in the evenings. But it's not it's not like the entire county. If you go and look at the stations, you look at the travel patterns.
I would think they're different.
It's a small number, yeah. And we can provide that information.
Okay, I think that'd be interesting. And then what percent of the riders within Palm Beach County, and I don't know about the other counties if they have a similar thing, but what percent of our riders are students?
Do we know that offhand?
If you don't have it, that's fine. If you can send that to us, I think that's also important to understand. You have contracts for everything, right? And I'm sure at some point in time, you all looked at what would be the difference if you brought this stuff in-house, and what would that look like?
So So there was a national move. Like we were actually the first of the, like when you have the legacy railroads, you have MBTA, Long Island Railroad, all those Chicago that run internally. And it had been years and years and years since a new commuter rail came open. And so when SFRTA came on, we were actually the first to model the outsourced model. You leverage that, especially for smaller railroads like us, where you don't have that national, regulatory presence and things like that. But we would have to hire quite a bit more staff. But there's definitely, if we matured enough to do this, you'd recognize probably, I would say, a 10 to 15% operating cost improvement long term.
That's substantial. And then when you were talking about the station rehabs, I assume that was just about the 4 stations you all own.
No, that's no. We were doing rehabs on all of the stations. So we do a lot of capital work on behalf of FDOT. So we were absolutely rehabbing we're doing Cypress Creek Station right now. We were going to do rehabilitation projects on all 18 stations.
And is that part of the budget you get from FDOT, or were you taking that out of your own?
We had some federal funds and capital funds that we had sequestered for that exact purpose.
But the capital funds, was that for the track maintenance, or where did that come from?
That was COVID. Go ahead.
So those funds come out of our federal formula dollars, and there's a mix, because sometimes we'll get a contribution from a TPA or TPO, the MPO, if they have available fundings. We allocate our federal formula dollars, and that's where it's been coming from and how we've built that up. And then that 46 million wasn't the be all end all. That's what we had programmed now, with an intention to continue adding additional dollars as we get formula dollars in future years.
So I mean, no offense to the FDOT folks here. I mean, love you guys, but why are you all paying to fix FDOT stations?
Well, it's part of we're responsible for the station. So it's part of our contract with the state. Like, we're responsible for the operations and maintenance and upkeeps of the stations. Jeremy, so we get $57 million a year, and I see where you're going. Well, we get $57 million a year in formula funds. You can use up to $34 million of that for operations. When we had COVID funds that could be flexed to operations, we pushed as much of that into capital projects as we possibly could. This was a one-time opportunity to be able to do that, and so that's why we were going to take that money and make the investment in our stations to bring those up to a state where they needed to be.
Okay, because it seemed like, if you're going to take the money, you should put it in stuff you guys own. Yeah. We heard about these contracts for CSX and so forth. Why aren't they public records, and why haven't you been able to see them?
They're proprietary to CSX. So CSX will hold, I can speak from when I was there. CSX is a tenant on several different railroads, and they hold those dollar amounts as proprietary for what they're paying one host versus another host versus every other contract.
Okay.
The agreements are public, but some of the dollars might be withheld.
Okay, I understand that. Have you all modeled what would happen if you shut down commuter service on I-95?
No, we have not.
I would suggest you might want to do that. Maybe share that with our friends from FDOT, and they can share that with everybody else. I think the state would begin hearing from some of their constituents in Southeast Florida. They didn't have that, if they ended up not having that service, and all those ended up on the roadway, probably push them to have to expand their infrastructure, which I think would cost a lot more. And so maybe it might be something to share with them. And congratulations on your lease for your TOD. I think that was a smart thing to do, is to do the lease. The only other thing I would say, probably don't do another 90-year lease or 99-year lease. Building in 50 years is not going to be worth much. So in 100 years, if it's still standing. So I would suggest that. And then lastly, on the makeup, I was looking, you had those COVID dollars in there. What was the long-term plan to replace those? Because they made up a big part of your budget.
The part of the plan was, part of our mandate was to approach the counties. That's part of that's our job. That was what was told to me when I was hired. And what we did, 3 years ago when I came here and I sat down with Virginia Baker. And I went through, and you and I have had this conversation as well. I said, at some point we're going to come asking for money. But where I came from before, you had to earn your right to spend. That's what we used to say. You have to spend judiciously and make sure you do things. Here I saw that we had to earn the right to ask. Like we had to kind of do some things with Tri-Rail and clean up our stations and clean up our railroad and clean up our equipment and get our work program back on track before we could come and ask. And then before we came to ask, we wanted to not show up empty-handed. So we commissioned a study of what are all the different ways to generate funding. Like we're not experts in this, but there's rental car taxes, cell phone taxes, TIFs, all the different ways that there are. And right when we were starting to have those conversations is when this change in the budget occurred. So everything became an abrupt pivot.
Well, I think, we're looking at it's still a lot to make up. So if you throw that on top of what the state is asking us for, because, obviously you have that money this year, you're not going to have it next year. If we have to, so what would those dollars be, and if we have to make that up as well?
With our contracts as they exist today, that delta would be about $30 million.
In addition to
In addition to the $4 million you give now.
Plus, and then, but that would also, and then that would cover the $42 million or the 15, if we have to then make that up as well?
Well, I can't speak for the state, but I think if there's some movement on behalf of the counties, they're going to be moving on the state on that money, that number.
You are, I hope you're a very optimistic person. But I hope you're right. I think as it relates to, I don't think we want to own I don't think the counties want to own this. But I see that there's some opportunity if we did. I think the idea that you could save 10 to 15% if you brought that work in-house. I think the revenue generation from advertising, all that stuff is, that's minimal. So I don't see a lot happening from that. I think this is a very difficult. The right thing is, this clearly is a benefit to this region. We just don't have the here, and we don't have the funding source. And I know it's not that they can just create that funding down south either. They have those funds committed to other projects and programs that they're also trying to implement. So that means they're going to slow those things down as well. Yeah, I'm hopeful the state is going to step up. Yeah, I don't know. But I think it would clearly the best thing is to have participation of the state in this. But if so be it, if that's our choice, then so be it. But I can't see us letting this thing go.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to reiterate, how much do we currently put in annually for Tri-Rail?
About $4.2 million.
Are you aware that there may be a ballot initiative changing the Florida Constitution in regards to property tax and how much we can collect?
I am aware of that, yes.
And so I would say we're kind of in uncharted territory when it comes to what we will be bringing in the future. So jumping from $4 million a year to $30 million or more a year, I pause for that. I can't support that. With too many unknowns going forward. We don't know what's coming. We don't know what's going to happen. How many students currently do we know? I think the percentage was asked, but do we know how many current students ride Tri-Rail?
Well, we know that we know the Dreyfus and the Bach is 350 a day right now. Currently, it's going up this year.
Yeah.
464. Okay.
460.
That's just the high school. But I don't have like the FAU.
For students. And do they all purchase tickets, or do we subsidize?
The school board purchases it
The school board does pay for it. Okay.
with a student discount.
The taxpayer subsidize it then?
Yes.
Because through the school board? Okay. And then how much do we currently spend annually getting people from the station to the airport?
1 point to the Palm Beach Airport.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a small amount. It's
Palm Beach on the Uber?
yeah.
Very small.
I think we're actually probably less than $10,000 a year on the Palm Beach Airport.
Thank you for that. I'm going to circle back to something briefly that Commissioner Powell had said. What was referenced prior to today was about them bringing aggregate to the port and through us. Did we ever find out if this, one way or the other, how we vote on this, would affect their ability to do that?
So I'm at a loss. I don't know the item. So this is aggregate over CSX, or because there's two freight railroads. So
That
I
was
don't
the
know.
question I guess I'd asked, because we heard they're bringing in tons of aggregate, and they were planning to use dump trucks to come through our downtown area.
So I can speak for what I see. What we see now is the aggregate is leaving this area. So the aggregate comes from Miami and leaves and goes north and goes up into the Tampa area on
Via
CSX.
train or?
Via train.
Right.
So we run, that's actually the preponderance of what CSX runs on this line is aggregate going up north. We don't have any unloading areas here to go and put them on trucks. So as I'm unfamiliar with the item, I don't know if that's aggregate running on this line or on the FEC line. So I'm kind of
Well, for staff, if we could look more into that, I would appreciate it.
more than happy to help in any way, but I'm not familiar with it.
Couple more. So a few questions. So it was brought up that if we did pay and we owned, was it most of the assets or all of the assets?
Well, it's very generic in the legislation right now. It says, well, convey the assets. I can't speak as to what "the" means. That would all have to be laid out and fleshed out with the state.
I guess where I'm going with this, we normally, if we own something, can put out an RFP or request for proposals for somebody to do something for us. But we don't currently own this. What I would like to see us do is potentially put out an RFI or something along those lines, a request for interest or information and so on, to see if the private sector, should we partner with them, want to take it over and monetize, so that we, the county, are not the ones running this, operating it, controlling it. Is there any Florida statute that would prevent us from seeing if there's interest from the private sector in doing this?
I don't think, and I'm not an expert on that, but I don't think there's Florida law. I think you might run into some issues with CSX on that in the way the original sale agreement was structured. So
Well, if they're not paying for it, so you're
they're
saying it's
paying
like,
for, they have rights from the sale. It was a pretty good deal. So CSX maintains a lot of rights, and they have rights of refusal. Like I still go to CSX and have my designs approved for even things that are on this railroad. So there's a lot of things in the agreement with CSX that they still have control over.
let me make sure I'm understanding this properly. So CSX can turn down anything, they have most of the rights to this, whether FDOT owns it or the county owns it?
Like for design, so like our northern layover facility, like we had to run all of those designs through CSX and get their approval on them. We got them, but everything comes at you have to go through that process. So if we're doing track layouts, things like that, changes in track, absolutely CSX has a right to review those and deny or approve them.
So even if we own this, they still get the final word?
Yes.
I really am not a fan of that. And could the private sector then, I guess, would still have to run any design or overlay through CSX if they would be willing to do that?
I would say that if, by private sector, you're more than likely talking about a short line operator, which is, they would, all the contracts that would go through, if I was at CSX still, I would maintain those rights into perpetuity.
So does CSX take on all the costs of operating this, seeing as how they have all the rights of everything if we decide not to?
No, they pay a percent. They pay a fee to FDOT for maintenance, and there's some monetary agreements between FDOT and them for revenue. But no, they do not pay for.
So what happens if FDOT doesn't fund it and the county doesn't fund it?
Well, it's really not likely to happen. The line will stay open. CSX will continue to run. FDOT, if Tri-Rail and SFRTA don't exist, those expenses will be borne by the state, and like not running it and closing it are not an option. I mean, it will be someone will be sitting, not me. Someone will be sitting at the STB in Washington explaining why we're interfering with interstate commerce, and then Amtrak would have everyone at every hearing in Washington. So like closing, not letting them run is not an option.
So I have to say, I really wasn't in favor of this before you answered my questions. I'm absolutely not in favor of funding this after this conversation. This is a no-win for the taxpayers. This is a no-win for this county in the name of trying to keep Tri-Rail, which I think is an important use for certain individuals, but not at the tune of $30 million and potentially more going forward into the future. I mean, that's atrocious.
Administrator Abruzzo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had a question from administration standpoint and following up on Commissioner Baxter. I believe in order to take it private or even have those discussions, and Deputy Administrator Von Laren, I think might know a little bit about this, the SFRTA charter would need to be actually repealed, most likely at the state level. So it'd be Tallahassee would have the ultimate say in any type of privatization. Is that correct?
Yes. Our contract with the state expires in June of 27. But yeah, you would back all those statutes out and start over, basically.
And then follow up, Madam Mayor. And then just for recollection, I know you went through a portion of this. The state purchased the rail from CSX in the 80s. Is that?
That is correct.
Okay. So understand.
I think
Thank you,
1986.
1986. Thank you. Yep.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask clarification from the Vice Mayor. When you said you were not in favor of funding this, did you mean
I mean, Tri-Rail.
that, do you mean that, well, because there's two discussions here. One is the state is asking us to help pay for the operations and maintenance of the line. And then there's a separate conversation about us contributing a little more for the operations of Tri-Rail.
I am not in favor of giving more than the $4 million we already give, or whatever that is of last year, and maybe a small amount above that because everything has gone up due to inflation. But the idea of kicking in anywhere near 30 million,
Well, the scenario 2 puts us at 8.4 with all, that's for all 3 counties.
that's still a
Right.
50% increase. Again,
No, that's shared over 3 counties as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That 8.4 and that scenario 2, assuming that FDOT would contribute the $42.1 million that we believe they're statutorily obligated, the delta is about $8.4 million to get to that overall expense that we need on that.
Divided by 3.
Yes, divided by
and
3.
when will we know
Divided by
this
3.
number?
Well, again, I mean, and Dave had said this before, FDOT says 15 million is what we're obligated to do today. They've come to us and said, counties, how do you want to put a plan together for the future in funding? And if I could just take it back, and because Dave's point about the discussion, when the discussions began on this, we started having discussions on this with SFRTA when Dave came in. They did the studies.
Excuse me, Todd, but I
Yeah.
don't want the long explanation on this
So-
one. I mean, it's coming down to period, we don't know if we're going to get 42 million. So how are you then asking us to choose a scenario that's not even,
I'm not asking you to choose anything today. What we've done is, I mean, from a discussion standpoint, we've kind of laid this out based on what we think FDOT's contribution levels may be. They might be 49 million if we say, hey, if we abandon this service, then you all are on the hook for $49 million to maintain that line. If you guys say, well, look, we know we're statutorily obligated to 42 million, then we know that number is around that $8.4 million number. Or if they say, nope, we're staying here at 15, then it's the 35. Or if it's somewhere in between there, it could be in between there. FDOT's looking at us and saying, hey, counties, what's your plan? What plan do you want? And they came to us before to ask that, and they put a plan together for us before session that we started talking about that didn't contemplate a county contribution until FY '27 or '28, and gradually looking at it,
So-
this accelerated it much more.
Todd, let's reiterate this.
Yep.
So we don't own it. FDOT does.
Right.
CSX gets the final say, one way or the other. And yet we're the one taking on the most financial burden?
From FDOT standpoint, this is the negotiating we're having with them. We think they're going to be sitting down with CSX and renegotiating maybe their contract with them, but we're not privy to that. We don't know what that is. And I don't know that that gets better for us when they're sitting down with them and negotiating that. I mean, CSX might do better.
Again, I don't think we are in a position where we can even make this decision. We don't have enough information. We don't know how much money we're getting. We don't know what their contract is obligating who to, or what they are. So again, and please, I know Commissioner Woodward, you've done an amazing job with laying this out. So thank you for that. I just can't get behind spending an unknown number because we don't know what they're contributing. And then that opens up Pandora's box for additional spending going forward. It becomes a money pit. Your favorite topic is another. We already highly subsidize another public transportation entity within this county. I don't want this becoming another endless subsidy of taxpayer dollars. So I can't support this.
And Madam Mayor, I mean, the reality of it is that we're in a partnership here with the state. We've got a partnership with us, the state of Florida, on transit, on rail in South Florida. And the question is, where financially that partnership lands as we move forward, both in the short term and in the long term. So
Is there someplace we can have those conversations with them then?
Yeah, we can have those conversations, and we are having those discussions with them and continue to do it.
Us, the board.
Yeah, we can do a follow-up from here, and we can have FDOT come here as well, as as you would like, and have the secretary come here as well. And, he'll
We
share.
can request it, right?
Yeah.
Todd,
I
know
think
that.
he will.
I know that smile.
But I'm fairly certain Steve Braun has no issue having conversations with us about it and having public discussions about it. So it's not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, Commissioner Sachs is going to jump out
All
of her
right,
seat
Mr.
if she
Von
doesn't
Laren.
speak, so.
I see FDOT in the room. I see Tri-Rail here. You got the county here. We ain't playing. Okay, we're a partner with, I'm pretty adamant about this because I was on the Appropriation Committee for Transportation. And we can tell our boys in Tallahassee, Palm Beach is not playing. They want to abandon, they're our partner. And I know we got legal here too, don't we? I'm sure we have legal in the room. Our partner all of a sudden decides that they're going to go from 42 to 15. You can tell them to take that back and put the money on the table to operate this wonderful system. But they want to pull back like that and then put it all on the counties, and they want to take our property taxes away as well. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I'm telling you right now, we're not playing. They're our partner. They better pony up, put the money down where it should be, and that is in Southeast Florida, because it's going to be damn embarrassing for a tri-rail system as excellent as this. And I'll tell you something, folks. I put my 11-year-old daughter on that tri-rail to go to Mangonia Park back in the early 90s, and I trusted y'all. She came back, fair and sound. So it's a damn good system, but they're going to start with tri-rail. They're going to put other issues as well in front of us and saying we're taking our money off the table. Well, they're not going to push it on us. We've been supporting this rail. I don't think that what you all have had to go through, because most rail systems are really real estate issues, where they can build stations and build real estate ways to bring money in. This has not been you haven't been able to do that. And I think that maybe a more serious conversation with Tallahassee. But as far as I'm concerned, you can tell Tallahassee they've got a tri-rail that they have been supporting for years. They helped start it. We were all there when they did it. I think Bobby was there too. So they're not pulling this trick, at least not on this commissioner. So they better pony up and take care of our rail system that's 3 counties. we have a commerce clause in the United States Constitution as well. And it applies to all the states, as well as the state of Florida. So I've been dying to say that, thanks, Mayor. But you do a damn good job. You're going to continue to do a good job. We're here as your parachute. But we've also got a federal government that has a commerce clause, and our state government can't expect us to pick it up at this point. So thank you.
Do you want to speak? No, go ahead. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. And thank you for that. Just to be clear, because, this, we knew as a board of SFRTA, we knew that this was coming. We thought we had a lot more time. What happened a few months back caught everyone by surprise. And you are not asking the county right now in this fiscal year for any money. Okay, it was pretty clear. That was what I understood from last week. But, that scenario up there, I mean, I still hold the scenario one is accurate, because the difference there is the insurance, is it not?
Yeah, and and thank you for bringing that up. These are all the numbers we have here for maintaining this line are based on our current contracts. Yeah, so the insurance could be a little bit less if you're not running commuter rail. There could be less there. They might not be able to carry the $390 million that it's going to turn into. Security might be a little less, but those numbers are directionally correct. They're in that ballpark.
Okay, so so this is not going to be settled until the next legislative session. Just for the timing, anyone that was, as I understand it, in the next session, that's when this will either be fixed or it won't. And I would appreciate this, our board, and I believe our counties to the south are in agreement that we are not in favor of paying for the operations and maintenance of the line. They own it. That's the deal. That's their responsibility. Anything beyond that is a major renegotiation. And I don't think that we want to own the rail. And if that becomes another entity altogether, if it's SFRTA 2.0 that becomes this, then maybe that's what it is. But as far as us as a county and Broward and Miami-Dade, not to speak for them, but I'm pretty sure they all feel the same way. We do not want to own the rail and everything that comes with. I am in support of us continuing the operations of the commuter line and what that discussion is. And that's why when we talked about those numbers, it's important for us to know, however this pans out next year, we are having that discussion. Is it, we're talking, even scenario 2 puts us at $6.7 million per county. That's something I think that is a palatable number that we can talk with. I still hold that scenario 1 is accurate, because that's the insurance and that's part of the line. That insurance pays for all 3 operating entities. So maybe there's some wiggle room there. But as far as this goes, I appreciate the concerted effort to tell FDOT that they are our partners, and you can't just sweep that money away and then and tell us SFRTA, use your reserves. And we know that money runs out in 2027 unless something really big changes. And oh, by the way, counties, you're the ones that have to make the change. So hopefully we can communicate that well, and I'm not wanting to go to war with Tallahassee or pick a fight here, but we can't do this. And I think you heard from the rest of the board, there's parts of this that we are willing to talk about and we need to talk about. It's not for this fiscal year, it's next fiscal year. We can start those conversations, but it is not for us to pay for the line. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. Oh, wait, one last thing. The school, I'm glad that you brought that. You started with bringing up Dreyfus and the other schools. If it's hundreds of students, that means hundreds of parents are getting off on Okeechobee Boulevard, and it's already difficult to get to Australian right now. So imagine that school is right there at Australian. That's hundreds of more people every rush hour morning and afternoon coming to pick up and drop off their children.
Yes.
So not just I-95. Think about the exits of what goes around it. So thank you.
Well, I think I'll wrap it up. So I just leaned over to Vice Mayor and I said, my first meeting at Tri-Rail, I said, what's our return on investment? And the comment I got back was, oh, we're a public service, so we really don't pay attention to that. But meanwhile, that's what FDOT is now shoving down our throats. So Dave, what was it, 3 years ago when I said, did you really want this job? I'm glad you took it.
That was your first meeting. Your last meeting, you
that was my
hired
swan
me.
song. I got to hire Dave Deck. Do appreciate you being here. We are in a position today where everyone is coming to us for dollars, whether it's community services, children's services, Tri-Rail, you name it, everyone's coming to us for dollars. And then we hear from the state, we want you to pay more, but oh, by the way, we're going to get rid of property taxes. So I don't know where this money is supposed to come from. Don't know where this money is supposed to come from. And next year, if there's a ballot initiative to get rid of property taxes, there is no money to do this. So the state has to figure out, what are we supposed to do if you don't allow us to collect property taxes and you want us to pay an additional $30 million a year to run a rail line? There is no money to do that. Right now, we're going into our budget cycle. Next month, we're going to say what our millage rate is going to be. And we are challenged with staying within the means that we have now. And we have Doge hanging over our heads saying, oh, by the way, we're not going to even tell you for 60 days what we found that we think might be issues. So, our hands are pretty much tied. What you've heard from our board is that while we know that there is not a request for this fiscal budget cycle, there may be one in the future. And if nothing happens, if nothing changes, Tri-Rail's out of business July 1st, 2027 anyway. And that will be on FDOT. That will not be on Palm Beach County, Miami-Dade, or Broward. That will be on FDOT. That will be an additional 1 lane of cars on the road every single day. That will be on FDOT and the state. That will not be on the counties. Now, if I'm picking a fight right now, and I know that no one wants to pick a fight with the state, but we can't keep paying for these things with unfunded mandates. This would be an unfunded mandate for us. So I think I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm not trying to pick a fight, but I'm just trying to be very realistic in the fact that we can't afford unfunded mandates, especially if in the future we have no property taxes. So that is the consensus from the board. I may have put it a little more harshly than everybody else did, but you heard me say this yesterday. I'm very black and white in how I approach things. Try not to be squishy. There's no one here that's squishy on this. No. So there you have it. And thank you very much for coming up here, for doing the presentation, for taking the slings and arrows. They weren't at you. You know that.
No, I appreciate you having us up here because, listen, it's by inviting us up, you show that you care and you express interest, and that's what, it's clear to us.
Well, this is an important service. We have to become more efficient. One way or the other, this service needs to become more efficient. But we can't become more efficient if our hands are tied behind our backs and we're blindfolded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, please, don't get me started. Dave, thank you. Oh, an interesting statistic. It's okay. I'm just going to talk anyway. We always talk about the coverage of Tri-Rail in Palm Beach County. Even though we don't go all the way to the end of the county, we still have 1/3 of the ridership. I can imagine what the ridership would be if we actually could go to the end of the county. But we're still only paying 1/3, just letting you know that. The math adds up to 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. All right, thank you. And our next item on the workshop, if anybody's still paying attention.
Commissioner Sachs wants to talk poop.
I'm not repeating that. Palm Beach County Septic to Sewer Overview. Like I said, I'm not repeating that. Oh, no problem. How about if it's 3:11, why don't we come back in 10 minutes and everyone can take a coffee break? I can get some fresh coffee or some water. So everybody be back in about 10 minutes. Or don't go anywhere.
Yeah, your light's on.
How long have we been live? All right. Well, thank you all. Interesting and lively conversation about environmental issues. Team bonding, yes. Okay, we are now on to the other item on our workshop, which is septic to sewer. So who's going to lead this discussion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and Mr. Ali Bayat, Director of Water Utilities, is going to lead this, and also Ms. Jennifer Cirillo from Parks and Recreation is with us today as well, because there is a key component of this septic to sewer program that we've been working on that directly impacts parks. So she's here with us if there's any questions related to that. But this is sort of a culmination of a number of comments from the board on septic to sewer, how we're working with our residents to assist them, and we wanted to give you a good overview countywide, or at least countywide and particularly Palm Beach County water utility service area-wide of what we're doing. And I will turn it over to Ali, and we'll start. We have a brief presentation for you and then some Q&A.
Thank you, sir. I'm not as good as a speaker as Mr. Todd, but I will do my best. Yes, ma'am.
Already better. There, see? Right over there.
Can we go to the last slide? Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Administrator Abruzzo. Next slide. This is just some stuff to show our performance. We do care about our rates. We want to be as low as possible, affordable. And the 55 number that is over there is actually a correct number. I did double check it multiple times, especially when I heard Doge is coming here. So we did get 55 awards. Next slide, please. Now, the takeaway from this one is that the blue area is the area that we serve as a Palm Beach County Water Utilities. We almost serve half of the utility, half of the county, and the other half is actually served by 15 other water utilities that we have. The other takeaway from this one is we're not your coastal utility, so any changes with the septic tanks, we're going to have the minimal impact on our shores and our beaches. Next slide. All right, so then the issues that we have in South Florida when it comes to our business. We listed some. We actually have more than that. Sounds like we got all the issues that we possibly can have, with the exception of the earthquake. If I have that one, I have all kind of it. The two that are highlighted are the ones that, however, got the attention of the media and they're more popular. And they both are not cheap items to fix. The one red, with the red color, is the PFAS. We have a mandate that we have to get our facilities fixed by 2031, and probably the cost of that gonna be somewhere between $400 to $500 million. It's not a subject of this presentation, but I just wanna make sure that I mentioned that. And also the septic tanks. Next slide, please. All right, just an overview of the overall Palm Beach County system with respect to septic tanks. Our state is at the 30% coverage by the septic systems. We are about 12%. So again, nothing fancy about it. We are ahead of the state, but typically that's the case with a lot of different things that we do. Almost 246,000 of the dwelling units right now in Palm Beach County in our service area only is also connected to the central sewer. So percentage-wise, we don't have the issue as level that the state has it, but it still is a problem. Next slide. Septic tanks that are not all bad, they're legal. A lot of them, they are good shape. And it really comes down to a number of the factors, right? You know, the density of the septic tanks, the location, are they being maintained or not? How large is the parcel, as well as also how far they are from the water. Some, I thought, interesting information about where the septic tanks are located with respect to the property value. So you see a good range of, you know, more than $400,000 to all the way less than $200K. Next slide. Now I want to see how we see this issue from the environmental perspective. So the picture on the left, it shows the BMAP for Lake Okeechobee. As of now, we only have one BMAP in Palm Beach County, which is this one, though, the Lake Okeechobee BMAP. And typically the BMAPs are like the state primary tool to get things back to the normal when the water bodies are impacted. So a state worked on Lake Okeechobee for a good number of the years. We have a portion of it in our service area, which is mainly in District 6, but there's a small portion also in District 1. I think the way that the state sees the issues, whatever you have the BMAP, we get more grants or things like this. The next level is the areas that we have the TMDL or other water quality parameters that they have.
Ali, hold on one second.
Yes.
Commissioner Flores.
Sorry, I apologize.
No, I think you're doing great. This is something that I think we've spoken about before.
Sure.
When are the BMAPs updated, and how do we get municipalities or areas incorporated? Because I think that's something that in my district, some of the municipalities have mentioned that they would like to see how often these BMAPs are updated and how we go about updating it. So not something that we have to dive in today, but if you can get back to me at some point, that would be great.
Sure. Commissioner Flores, just as far as I know, it's a state process. They usually start with TMDLs first, and when they gather the data, they take it to the next step. They issue a bunch of reports, but I'm going to get the full presentation from the FDEP to see how the process works, how often they do it, what's the length of it, and all that stuff. I will bring it back, for sure. Next slide. So on that one, not only you see the BMAP, you also see some of the TMDLs that we have. We do have one in West Boca area. There are a couple more. The latest one that was actually published was for the small pond, or maybe a small lake, at the southeast corner of the PBIA. I believe that's a Pine Lake. That's the latest area that the TMDL got officially published by FDP. So what they say here, typically there is a correlation between if they establish a TMDL and having the septic tanks in that area. Moving on to the next slide, some useful information about now we're breaking down the data per districts and also per BMAP area or not. As I mentioned before, it's about 55,000, almost 56. About 33,000 is in the Palm Beach County Water Utility service area. As of that one, a good number of those in a BMAP, but if you look at the last column also, almost 90+% of those that they are in the BMAP, but they also on the parcels that they are 1 acre or larger. And the size of the parcels plays a role in how we're gonna move forward and how we're gonna treat them. If you go to the next slide, where we kind of providing you a good overview of the regulatory overview, you see a state. Let me give you the background first, and then I go to the size of the parcels. In the past 4 or 5 years, a state has been publishing a lot of regulations, and they've been really pushing very hard to clean up the environment from the nutrient. So we have the SB 64, which was impacting mostly Central and North Florida, then SB 1379, which is impacting, to some extent also our area. So under that rule, they are asking if even the parcel, if it's in the BMAP area, if it's larger than 1 acre, they can have a septic, but if it's less than 1 acre and there is no sewer, they can still have a septic tank, but it should have nitrogen removal, I think, equipment with it. So Going back to the previous slide, all those parcels that they are larger than 1 acre, according to state, they still can have their septic tank and no problem. And to be honest with you, we don't see also a problem to have one septic tank on a parcel greater than one acre. On the left side, it does show the authorities. In the state of Florida, FDEP is in charge of the septic tanks. They are, issuing the permit. They're the one do the inspection. In Palm Beach County has been the health department, and they are here with us today as well. They are in charge of the septic tanks till, I believe, 2027. I believe at 2027, the plan is to give it back to DEP. But we work together very closely, and actually one of the successes that we had so far, because of the relationship, we've been able to get a lot of folks connected to the central sewer system. Moving on to the next slide, what have we done all these years? Primarily 3 ways that we've been having to helping our folks to get connected to sewer. Next slide, please. So one way is our assessment programs. Assessment programs that we have, we do it all. As long as we do have the community coming to us and they initiate the request, there's a process that we have to go through. It gets approved by the board, and also there is nothing from their pocket. We provide all the services, and at the end, we have a plan to put them on the 20 years payback period with a 5.5% interest, and that's all they need to do. Over the years...
Ali, hold on one second.
Sure.
How does that, you would say the payback period is 20 years. How does the county collect those dollars?
We put them on their tax bill.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Mayor, over the years, been very successful on the water side. I think generally people, they care more about the drinking water, so they wanted this. And we have done only few programs for the sewer. Moving on, we've been looking for dollars from the estate for as long as I've been with the county. As of now, we are very grateful for our relationship with FDEP and the state officials. They do see the value in the projects that we do. We do have professional relationship, and they come here and visit us, and we back and forth with each other. So collectively, we do have about $50 million worth of grants in different stages from the state. So out of that $50 million, for just this area, we got about $2 million. But I just didn't want to focus on the $2 million to not mention the whole thing. The state has been helping us, but for septic to sewer, their policies, I think, has been helping the central and north more than us, and there's a technical reason for that. Again, very grateful for the relationship. We have 4 grants right now going on, collectively about $2 million. One in District 2, Gulfview, they both are in the process, and one in District 6, Pahokee area. The other initiative that the county took, that also I have Jennifer with me here to talk about it, many thanks to all of you to giving us the money out of the ARPA. And we put a good portion of the money to the parks. Jennifer?
Thank you, Ali, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. So thank you for bringing septic to sewer back for us to talk about. We first identified in parks multiple drain field failures about a decade ago, and we included some projects in the infrastructure sales surtax at that time. So rather than continue to invest in failed drain fields, especially very close to recreation waters, we're going to upgrade them to sanitary sewer. So when the ARPA funds became an eligible funding source for these projects, we were able to pick up really, at your direction, the remainder of our park projects to get, start with our own and to get it where it needs to be. So we're working with water utilities as the vehicle for Parks and Recreation to use for construction for these parks. We're very glad, especially in the Glades, because those projects would not have been even impact fee eligible being in the Glades. So ARPA is a great funding source for this project. And I got to tell you, WUD, not just because Ali's sitting next to me, but they're wonderful partners to work with on the construction side, and they're moving these projects along to completion. Once they are done, we will have
all of our parks and facilities in the entire county system, except for 2 that'll be on sanitary sewer. And those 2, we're going to keep pending, and as soon as it's available and not cost prohibitive, we'll make that a priority as well. It's Jupiter Farms Park, really, because that park sits way back in that community, and it's not on available right now. And then also Ocean Inlet Park, which is in the town of Ocean Ridge, that is also not really nearby any connectivity. So those are the 2 outliers, but we're going to keep them on our list for future infrastructure needs. And I just am grateful to you and to Ali for really, getting our parks up to a modernization standard, particularly close to our recreational waters.
Thank you, ma'am. And before we go to the last slide, I want to go back to 4 slides past, if you don't mind. And that's, yeah, there you go, the red part. So for the first time, we got direction from the state, how they want to move forward with septic tanks statewide. So there is a mandate right now for all the utilities in the state to come up with a feasibility study of what we're going to do with the septic tanks. So they have not told us, what expectation they have or not, just simply said, go and do the feasibility. So we already started the work. There's a 10 years window that they gave us time to catch up, but I believe we're going to be done sometime next year. We're going to be done with that one. We also add to it some of the environmental factors. So when we have that study done, we want to bring it back to show how we can move forward more effectively. It's an important study to finish. There are parts of our system that we do have a lot more infrastructure available and it's easy to connect, versus some areas that we have to do full-blown projects. So it will be some rankings also involved.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know it looks like we're almost to the end of this, but a couple questions, because you had listed on a previous slide a chart, it looks like 9, I'm going to say, where each district is broken down into septic systems in WUD service areas. Does that mean they're all on city water?
No, these are just the septic tanks. They can be on the septic, and also they have the water from the wells.
What I'm asking is column 3, right? So we have districts, septic systems, and then we have septic systems in the water utilities.
The very first one, Vice Mayor, is how many we have in the whole state, whole county.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is how many we have per district in our service area.
What do you mean by your service area?
The water utility service area. If we go back to slide number 2.
Maybe I'm not asking this clear enough. If they're in your service area, meaning unincorporated Palm Beach County, incorporated, or do you mean they're on city water?
No, the service area refers to just our water utility customers that we provide the service for, not what other municipalities or other utilities provide. And within Palm Beach County, we have how many service providers?
Okay, let me say this another way. On well water.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So the people not in this number are people on well water.
So you can have customers that they are on the well water and they're also on the septic.
That's what I'm asking. So is this third column, if you go back?
Yep.
Now I see what you're asking. Yes. So for the most part, you just.
Thank you.
Sure. I was just thinking about it. Now, for the most part, if they don't have, in the areas that they don't have the septic, they probably is not 100%, but for the most part, they're also on the well water, especially in your district. Yes.
So most of the people on septic, or excuse me, septic have well water.
For the most part, correct.
For the most part.
Yeah. That I can.
Is there, and in these programs, there are obviously, according to these numbers, some of them that would have to be converted to septic, correct? If you looked at the statutories in the next slide where it says that require septic to sewer conversions in lots 1 acre and below in vulnerable areas in the
Yes.
BVAP
Yes.
areas, right?
So if they already have a septic tank existing and they are less than 1 acre, there's no need for them anything. They're still gonna get their permit.
And how many of those are on well water?
Oh, I don't have all the statistics on the water side.
That have to be converted?
Of water or wastewater?
That have to be converted from septic to sewer? How many of those homes are on well water?
very, very small number of those. Because if you go back and look at that statistic again, so a lot of them are probably going to say 90% plus, they are larger than 1 acre.
Excuse me, Ali. Do you have an answer to my question, sir?
Yes, ma'am, I believe I do. Kenny Wilson, Florida Department of Health. We have a rule that if you have half of an acre and public water is available, you can have a septic system. If it's an acre, then it can be water and well and septic. So we have a lot of them that have both. Gun Club Estates, are you familiar with that area? They have septic system, but they do have public water.
Well, thank you for answering that, but that's not where I'm going with this. But I do appreciate the information.
I thought for a second help is coming.
No,
but it's
I
not
promise I'm getting there. I just want to make
yeah,
sure
sure.
that my understanding to this point is
Sure.
correct. Now, in order to get these homes onto septic, do they not, or excuse me, from septic to sewer, they have to dig up the roads, they have to dig up the dirt, right?
Correct.
And install sewer lines. Are we able to, at that time, since everything is already dug up
Sure.
and everything is already a
I see where you're going.
hot
Yes.
mess?
Yes, yes,
Can we give residents the option, who are on well water,
absolutely.
to then hook up, if they so choose, to our system, because the majority of the cost is already there in digging everything up?
No, I 100% agree. Yeah.
Now, the last time I asked this question, somebody said that we had a current county ordinance that prevented that potentially from happening. Todd? So,
Not an ordinance.
or some rules or policies. Is that still the case?
So we do have policies that exist that say that for example, when a developer comes in to develop a property, and developer is sort of synonymous with owner, comes in to develop a property, that they're responsible for the building of that infrastructure to get there, and the resident is responsible for what happens from those transmissions to the property itself, and the owner is responsible for everything from that line to their home and the connection fee for that. So, but that policy still exists within the uniform policies and procedures of water utilities that requires that. Now, that being said, I mean, so that clarifies maybe that. Next question.
Let me,
Madam Mayor, please.
okay. Question.
Sure.
And Todd, I'm not sure I heard what you just said in the way I'm asking my question. If we are putting in a sewer line, do we automatically put in a water line at the same time, but don't necessarily require the owner to hook up? Do you understand the question?
Right.
Okay. Because I know a community in the north end of the county, they only wanted to do a water line, not a sewer line. This is not wood, this is another utility, but it's basically from the vice mayor's point is, if we're already laying in the infrastructure for sewer, we should be laying in the infrastructure for water at the same time. The customer is the one that can then say, yes, I want water, yes, I want sewer, and what is mandated and what is required and what is optional.
Sure.
Thank you. Perfect.
Yes.
And Commissioner Weiss has a follow-up, but go ahead.
Yeah.
You want the follow-up now?
Yeah, please, because
Okay.
it's specifically about this. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but then if you think about it, if we lay in the water line and the people don't take it, then all the other ratepayers are going to have to subsidize that water line sitting there because the cost is not borne. The cost, if they accept the water, then they would pay for whatever the cost of putting that line in. If they don't, then the utility's going to put in that line with no revenue coming back for it.
Well, how about if we let Ali answer the question and then we can debate?
thank you for
Commissioner
all-
Sachs is itching to get in, and I know
Yes.
Vice Mayor Baxter is on this too. So how about if we let Ali answer the question and
No,
then?
I don't know if we should Ali answer. He's just ahead of water, you know. I think that's a very good idea. Go
Sure. No, go ahead, please.
Only because Ali helped me because we had well water.
Correct.
Y'all laid the line out. We pay for it. We don't hook up to county water until we want to. Then when we want to, Commissioner Weiss, but we pay. The property owner pays for that line to go to the house for county water. The taxpayer would also pay for the hookup. However, it's up to you whether you want it or not. But this is money that's paid by the property owner.
Just to clarify, I understand, Commissioner Sachs, that's what's paid by the property owner if they're contemplating putting in water.
Oh.
But if you run a line down the street
Right,
and nobody chooses to hook up for it,
right.
who's paying for that?
The people, no, I'm just telling you what happened with me. I'm not.
I'm just
So I
asking
think Mr. Bayat is probably.
Sure, if I can
a little
answer.
more
Let's
professional than I am.
hold on,
So I
okay,
will turn
everybody,
my-
let's let Ali answer the question, because there is also an economies of scale
Sure.
that answers that question also.
Right.
Sure. So under our assessment program, I think you all had great points. To be honest with you, everybody's right, but there's no wrong answer, but it's multiple different things together. So under assessment program, we do assess the entire neighborhood. When we have enough votes, more than 50%, we go put the pipe in, and then we charge everyone, regardless if they choose to not connect in, they don't connect, but we still collect the money. So we can go to the neighborhood, we can put the pipe in, as long as we have 50 plus 1% approval, and we have the board approval, we can put the pipe in, and then they choose to not connect, that's their decision. That's what we have done so far.
This is the sewer line,
Water
No,
or
this is
sewer?
water and sewer.
Either way.
Okay, so
And that's
it's all one together, is what you're saying.
Or we can do water, we can do sewer, or we can do it combined. What we have done so far, to my knowledge, we haven't done really a combined system yet. For the most part, everybody wants water. And every time we have done the water, the whole neighborhood, not 100% want it. But again, it was enough vote to push the project forward. Board approved it. We did the work, and we put that against that property tax on their record. So we collect the money at the end.
Madam Mayor, may I? So, following your thought, and I understand why the 51% traditionally, it's
Sure.
because you want to be able to justify the cost. The whole point of this conversation is that the road and everything to put in those sewer lines, that I'm going to throw a ballpark number, 90% of the cost is already out there, if not more. The additional line, water line, do we have a rough number of what that would cost additionally if sewer is already mandated to put in? I mean, do we still have to meet that 51% threshold when the cost is going to be minimal comparatively if it's done at the same time?
Always, we save money if we combine the project. Absolutely. There's no problem with that. But the thing is, I think what we were going with this presentation was the state is asking us just to do it for the sewer, right? But we want to add the water to it as well. So we're going to make that a study, a comprehensive study, covers water, sewer, water only, sewer only properties. So everybody in our service area be part of that. I think that's what kind of I'm hearing the direction is. And then we do the cost estimates. And then we come back and say, in order to do this, this is the funding needed for it. And then we talk about how we're going to move forward at that point.
And how much money are we saving the residents who do want to hook up?
If you do the combined services, when we do it individually, let's say $40,000 per connection or 50. Then when you combine, probably
Which is hard.
right, yeah, absolutely, especially nowadays. But when it comes down, you do the road restoration just one time. You do the MOT just one time. Everything becomes one time. So for sure.
So if you could bring us those numbers,
Sure. That's
That'd
what
be
we do.
amazing.
What we're planning to do, for sure. Yeah.
And I'm going to just point out, you quickly went over slide 12. Go back to slide 12, please. And then Joelle, I'll have you. I'm right there, total projects completed under the program. 78 water projects and 2 sewer connections. So basically, most of the infrastructure that you have laid so far has been for water, not for sewer.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And those folks that they choose to just do the water, they're perfectly happy with their septic system, and legally they can have it.
Oh, sure.
All right.
Hold on.
I just want to clarify, this board always has the ability to impose an assessment without the 50%, without a petition or anything. It's probably never been done, but the board does have the authority under the UPAP provisions.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores?
So once you put the line and someone chooses not to, do they have a time limit that they have to make the connection by, or is that like open and they never have to do it?
We haven't had those cases. We have some that they choose to not connect in, but we put that cost against their tax bill. So they start paying for it, but they still not connect. So when they're gonna sell the property, they have to give the money back to the county.
But they don't technically have to connect.
They don't have to connect. No, we don't force them to connect.
Okay.
Vice Mayor, your light's still on.
I'm going to reserve my comments.
Okay. Ollie, why don't you go back to where we left off?
Yeah, just where we left off is very quickly here, just on the moving forward slide. So Ollie had talked about the state required feasibility study that we've been embarking on. That's what we expect to have back to you within the next 12 months and to be presented to the board once those findings are. So I think that'll be pretty compelling. And based on the feedback, I think it's going to be what you're anticipating will get you exactly those numbers and that cost benefit analysis. In the meantime, we're going to continue to work with some of our collaborating partners on both the private side, local municipalities, and some of our agencies to identify some of those different additional grants and funding opportunities, and then also work on explaining the importance of, working through septic to sewer conversions and supporting needs for some of those programs. And then finally, we just wanted to introduce you to a couple of our new employees at Water Utilities to be. So Alligator and Edgar Egret and Ollie Owl will be starting work on November of 2026 at Green K. And these are going to be in our recap center, which is here as a rendering. Those will be sort of the virtual employees and staff that we have our team that will talk through the importance of septic to sewer, reuse water, and we just always like to plug Green K Phase 2 and recap because it's quickly approaching and we're really excited. We're going vertical on recap right now and a lot of activity that's happening out there. So thank you very much, and that concludes our presentation, and of course we can continue any other discussions you have.
Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Todd, Alligator, Edgar Egret, and Oliver Ollie Owl, will they be using AI to complete their jobs when they when they start these new positions?
These are next-gen employees that we're talking about here, so they're going to be engaging in some of the latest technologies, and we're really excited to showcase them because they're actually going to explain to folks exactly how the water facility operates when you walk by our water facility and actually see it. They're going to come up on the screens next to it as you're walking by and get an opportunity to engage with them. So, yeah, next-gen stuff.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm sure our visitors will look forward to meeting those new employees.
I'm sure Weiss is salivating about that.
Sure.
Commissioner Woodward?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to go back and ask a few questions about our barrier islands. We have a number of barrier islands that are on septic. And I don't know that any of them are in unincorporated areas. I think they're all municipalities. However, they're ocean on one side, intercoastal on the other side. This is an important issue for us as a county, just, the Lake Worth Lagoon Initiative, any of this. Can you talk to me about what efforts we have to help those barrier islands get off of septic?
Commissioner Woodward, since they are outside of our service area, we haven't been involved with those conversions. So we haven't really been.
Okay, what about we as a county? Maybe this is a bigger question, not just water utilities, but there has to be things that we are able to do and help participate. Because this does affect us, whether it's incorporated or not, it affects our waterways, so.
I will say, at least from county asset standpoint, Commissioner, Ocean Inlet Park that we talked about is one of the ones that is not yet able to be converted because of the infrastructure there. I could be mistaken, but I think it's Boynton Beach Utilities that services that barrier island. We have been in conversations because our drain field there, we flood on a rainy day in that park. And so, our county assets, our county infrastructure that are in those other service providers, we have been having conversations about that with them and planning, at least from a county asset standpoint. And that's not the only county facility on a barrier island. There are others, but from a septic conversation, that's one of the most vulnerable. And there is the possibility our drain field would no longer function, and then we're dealing with a public visitation restroom issue, which is never fun. We do even, keep portalets there often as a backup, which is not a great public service for people visiting the beach. So we are dialoguing on that, but that's more us as a customer of the utility and being public infrastructure.
And just to follow up on that, Commissioner, on this slide here where you see grant number 3, the state appropriation on the Central Palm Beach County infrastructure improvements, we've worked with a number of our municipalities on some legislative strategies to, most of it's one-off in terms of additional dollars that they might be able to receive from the state or other governments to support some of those programs. That's part of what we've trying to do and continuing to do with this type of improvement that primarily goes to our municipalities in the central part of the state, but we've worked with Lake Clark Shores, for example, in the past on, some of their initiatives and trying to, help with some other funding strategies for them as well.
Can we have?
Deb, it looks like you wanted to add something, so why don't you come up?
Hi, good afternoon. Deb Drum, Environmental Resources Management. I just wanted to let you know that we do interface with the municipalities annually through the Lake Worth Lagoon Steering Committee and through the initiative. And I am happy to report that this year we had a lot of municipalities show up and submit. The majority of our projects this year are septic to sewer conversions from municipalities. So I wanted you to be aware that that is provided as an opportunity annually, and then we work with our legislative affairs to go to Tallahassee and advocate for funding through specific appropriations. That can be a tough way to fund projects because of the uncertainty, and we would love to collaborate with anyone that would work with us at the state level on a more comprehensive way to fund septic to sewer, especially in the Lake Worth Lagoon watershed.
Can you tell me on the Lake Worth, the steering committee, are barrier islands given priority?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, any municipality that has a community that is adjacent to the Lake Worth Lagoon, where it has that, especially older neighborhoods that have that proximity to major water confluences or next to the Lake Worth Lagoon, those are always prioritized. And they are also referenced specifically, those communities, in our Lake Worth Lagoon Management Plan, which has been adopted by the board.
Okay. Because it's just, I think most people are not aware how many of our barrier islands are still on septic. And, we talk about, king tides and flooding and all of that. But I mean, these barrier islands, you're pouring water on a wet sponge, basically. And if we don't get that taken care of, any of this other infrastructure work that we're doing, this has to be dealt with first.
I can follow up with the Boca Utility and Boynton both to see where they are, and I will report back.
Thank you. And it would be good for us to know exactly how many. I know how many are in my district, but I don't have the whole coast, and it's 2 bodies of water. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sachs and then Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. And Todd, a good shout out for Green K, and to let everybody know that that was just a water filtration, place, and it became populated by birds and fish, and it's just beautiful. But it started as a water filtration place to clean water. So if we can do more of those throughout the county, I think it would be, if we can actually take the process of filtering water and use it as a place where birds and other critters come, it is really a beautiful thing for nature, as well as being a great use for water filtration. So thank you, Todd, thank you, and thank you, Cirillo, for that. It's a beautiful park. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. And following up on Commissioner Woodward's comments, I think that I assume then all the utilities are going through this process and in putting these studies together.
Yeah.
Is there going to be an opportunity to put everything together? Because, and I understand you only have responsibility for for the water utility in Palm Beach County's area, but we have responsibility for everybody. And I think it's really important to understand because the impact, whether it's coming from a municipality or Palm Beach County water utilities, it's impacting our water bodies and creating the issue that the state is wanting us to address.
Sure. More than happy to coordinate with all of them. Right.
I think that would be great.
Sure.
You know, and I was really glad to hear. I hadn't seen the proposals come in yet for the lagoon, but to see municipalities stepping forward and wanting to do septic to sewer is something that I know we have all been advocating for a long time. It's obviously they're the closest to these water bodies that are impaired. But let's face it, it comes down through the C-51, it comes down through the canals, and it comes down through the folks that just drain directly into the lagoon. The other question I had to do with, I know in some areas our water table is really high, 6 feet underground, 8 feet underground. What keeps the septic fields from polluting the water that's just underneath it, that's getting pumped out to the folks that are on these well water?
Oh, we're calling in the reserves here.
Need the health department on this one.
Hello, Ken Wilson again, Florida Department of Health. What we have is when we put in a septic system, there's a requirement of, in good soil, 75-foot separation from a water well. In bad soil or restrictive soil, as in the acreage, it's 100 feet. What happens in the acreage is they use a bed, a mound system, which builds up. So when you come in and you're 24 inches from the water table, you build it up so you have the 42 that's required. It should be 42 inches of solid sand to filter the water as it comes down before it gets to the water table.
Does anyone ever test the well water?
Well water is usually just tested for fecal coliform or total coliform. That's usually done when the well is first dug, and that's all it requires for that. Now, that's for a private well, for a single-family resident. When we get to what we call a limited use, which is up to 25 people, could be an apartment complex, could be a small business, then they're required to test, I believe it's twice a year.
Okay. Very good. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Commissioner, if I can add to it, for the wells that we use, it's completely different from the private wells.
Oh, yeah.
We go 150 feet below the ground, and those wells on the monitoring systems, 24 hours, 7 days, 365 days.
Well, and then you have some municipalities are on the floor, Dan, and that's that's 1,000 feet or 1,500 feet below the surface that they're going down to. Yep. So I think City of Lake Worth Beach is on the
Lake
floor,
Worth Beach has those. We have those. Seacoast, and moving forward, I believe City of West Palm going to be on Floridans.
Yeah, and then everybody else is on the Biscayne,
Correct.
Which is not quite as deep. So, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to piggyback on Senator/Commissioner Sachs, I just wanted to, I know he will be extremely modest, but I had the opportunity to spend an afternoon out at Green Cay Nature Center, and far before any of us were able to sit up here, Deputy Administrator Taban Laren really started piecing together what we see here today. His relationship with the landowner and being able to put it together. And I just wanted to commend him. I could, without question, say it probably wouldn't exist if it wasn't for our Deputy Administrator. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Quick question. What is the procedure for a community to go from septic to sewer? How do they, do they come to us? Do we go to them? As you said, it needed to be 50% plus one. And so can you just if I'm a brand-new community and I decided, to come in and like Seminole, they're right on the Intercoastal, up in the north end of the county. They're all on septic. What if they wanted to go to sewer?
Sure. So for our service area, for those that they are with us, we do have a point of contact, and we advertise that every so often, that if they have any needs, call that person. Start anything with us. All they need to do is just a phone call. We walk them through the process. We work with them through the petitions part of it, how to move from step 1 to step 3. Pretty much at that point, we take care of it.
And would the petition process fall on the HOA?
We just need one representative from the community, and then the coordination. Those areas, typically, they've been coming to us, they don't have HOA. I haven't seen one. Someone from the community started, and they organize the meetings and everything that we need. But if there is HOA, definitely going to be helpful, because then it's more organized and things going to get more formal.
Thank you.
Sure.
I don't see any other lights on. Does anyone else have any questions? Commissioner Sachs?
I have one comment. I want to thank the Department of Health. In my community, we're all on septic. And the businesses that come to take care of septic tanks are very professional. And they remind you when it's time to get rid of it. And it's all very regulated beautifully, probably through the Department of Health to get a permit and continue to get a permit. And now the mounds are regulated and required so that you have enough space between the septic, the drain field, and the aquifers. So it works out very well. And and then what we did at Green Cay, I hope that other places can have it as well. And I welcome you all to come out to Todd Bonlaren's Green Cay Park there. It's beautiful. Thank you. It was a good presentation. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
No problem. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all. Yes, sir.
Anybody have board direction? Say no. Anybody have comments? Say no. Oh, we have comments. Commissioner Woodward.
Sorry, I do have one. I don't know that this is board direction or comment, but we had Doge here last week, and then I for one, was not a part of it. I don't think any of the commissioners were a part of it, other than the news reports that I saw and the briefing from the CFO, I guess, press conference. And I'm reading things like eye-popping findings, and we'll find out in 60 days. I'm not sure who all was in the meetings with Doge, but we have to vote on a budget in 2 weeks. We have our first budget hearing in 2 weeks. 60 days is not going to do it. What I would like to know, what information you, Mr. Administrator, or staff that was a part of this could bring to us so that we have somewhat of an idea. Are we going to be blindsided? We're going to vote on a budget, and then 60 days from last week, once we're into our new budget, what are we going to find out?
Right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Unfortunately, Commissioner, you know as much as we do as far as findings are concerned. All we can key in on is the information that they asked of us, which was sent to you and publicly available, as well as the individuals that asked for a list of employees that they interviewed while they were here. I have not heard from the state since. And I don't know if Deputy Administrator Bonlaren.
Eye-popping.
Thank you, Administrator Abruzzo and Commissioner. I think we have compiled some additional information that we provided to them based on some of their last requests that they had last week. We're working with them right now on some of the formatting of some of that information and trying to work through that. But for the most part, the CFO came down and shared with the administrator and others that he was going to put this together in 60 days. Staff is going to, I know that staff is working on a lot of these on their end. So 60 days is a very aggressive schedule to try to meet for as many of these that they're doing week to week and going from one place to the next. But I'm going to probably reach out to them, if not today, first thing tomorrow morning, just as some follow-ups, just to see if there's anything else or if there's anything preliminarily that we should be looking at or addressing further. But, you know, I think just based on the things that they were asking us to, are things that the administrator, you know, on the efficiency side of things has been looking at already over the last several months with us and working even without DOGE on addressing some of those items. So, you know, a few of those things are things that we're really working on, you know, internally ourselves. But I don't think that there's going to be some big long thing that says, well, you have to do this or you have to do that. But again, I don't know, and nobody from any other jurisdiction that we know has that information yet either. So,
Madam Mayor,
Also.
as the previous audit chairman of our state in JLAC, and when I was comptroller, clerk and comptroller, we have a big audit function as well, as you're aware. And generally, an auditor doesn't make comments like that. They wait till the findings occur. It's not standard practice. Normally, we don't comment until the audit is complete, always, not even. You know, I also would take into consideration things could have been said in a blanket term statewide, maybe not us. So I would like to hope and think that that was the case. But look, if there are some findings, I know we all will be want to get on top of it, and we'll have to wait and see. But they've been very clear that it's going to be 60 days.
Okay, well, I guess my question is more, they are using our information that we gave them. They were here for 2 days. In 2 weeks, we're voting on budget. And I'm not trying to speak for the rest of the board, but I think I'm, for one, am very uncomfortable knowing that we have to vote on a budget in 2 weeks. And there are potential eye-popping findings. And how do we as a board address that? Is there some sort of a clawback for us, an option, if we're going to vote on this and they come back with us sometime in October or November with a significant finding we're not aware of? What's our option?
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead.
I believe, let me make this statement first, Commissioner. When I became clerk and comptroller, I actually asked for a state audit of the clerk and comptroller's office. We are very small compared to the county, 700 employees at the time. They embedded with us, and were professional state auditors for 2.5 years. And still their findings wound up being a little off. Which we worked it through with them and things of that nature. It was an audit of the office prior to me taking it. So I bring that up because a 2-day audit, and I do have experience in this realm, it wouldn't be sufficient in my mind, just compared to everything that I've seen, including being the spearhead at the state level for 4 years. So back to budget. I believe we could amend the budget so it wouldn't be set in stone. There would be some leeway, but I would like to bring Director Brown, Sherry Brown, down to answer some of those questions for you, or maybe to your office.
Well, that would be my request for staff, is just for us to have a better understanding of what our options are. I know that we're not going to get the state's report until after we're into our new budget, but I'm fielding some questions on this, and of course, we were not a part of it, and we're not going to be a part of it. We're going to receive results that are going to be what they are going to be. But it would be helpful for us, for one, to have an idea of what they were specifically asking for. And I'm not saying that you have to maybe make that in a public meeting just yet, but I want to know. I would like a report, for one, on what was discussed and what may be coming down the pipe. And then also, when you discuss with us, let us know what options we have as far as the next 2 votes that we have in September on budget and what that means for whatever findings come after. Thank you.
Ironically, and Commissioner, I'll call on you in a second. Ironically, I had an interview with one of the TV stations today they asked the same question. And my answer to them was, it's very disappointing that we have 2 days of audits. They're going to take 60 days, but we have to vote on a budget. And I did talk about how historically we have done, like mid-year adjustments. I guess the biggest question that we all have is, all right, they come up with these findings. What is it that we have to do with these findings? What is the timing of it? And, so we have more questions than we have answers. And when Blaze was here last week and he did his outside, he used the word egregious, but then the word egregious was actually applied to the entire state of Florida. It wasn't applied to Palm Beach County. It was part of his statement. Eye-popping was Palm Beach County, but didn't say what was eye-popping. One of the things he did address were salaries for upper level, for directors and above, and also the what was the name of the study? Evergreen. The Evergreen study was part of the discussion. So again, we have. Oh, hi, Sherry. As I said to him, we're in a position where we have to vote on a millage next month. And we've set the upper level of what that millage would be. There's nothing that says we can't lower that millage. But if we lower the millage, we have to know what we're doing. And we, at this point in time, may not have the accurate information. So, Sherry, what would you like to contribute to this?
Thank you. We are adopting a budget in a couple of weeks, and I have no idea what eye-popping means. I'm with you on that one. And but we will go forward, adopt our budget. We can do it as we've looked at it in July. If everybody's good with the budget as we've presented so far, we would adopt it. Once we get those reports back, then we can make decisions on what changes going forward, because we can amend the budget next year. We'll keep our millage rate. If you want to keep it set as we have proposed at this point, we would keep it proposed. And then looking a year from now, we may want to make some decisions on our millage rate going forward. But I can't tell you to make changes when I have no idea what the report's going to be. And I just don't know what eye-popping would be either, so.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry.
Did you want to add anything?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I could add some context to the conversation with the CFO and the salaries, he was saying to both the mayor and myself, he said that the problem with staff salary is, if Broward is paying somebody on staff, a deputy, $300,000, then we have to pay him $350,000, and then the next person that comes in, they have to pay $375,000. It was the exact example that he gave. I strongly disagreed with that premise to him. It is, I said you can't compare Broward and Palm Beach County or even the state. You have to look at what the top 25 counties are around the nation and what the average pay is on that. And I'm setting it all up to have exact numbers, facts, and figures for you all, but I believe we're at the mid to lower end of where we really are at a county. Case in point, Harris County in Texas, they have 9 deputy administrators that make around $450,000. We're not anywhere near that. So if the DOJ findings, if they try to put that together, I'm going to try to put that into real context for us all. Secondly, I believe they're going to show what the average worker in Palm Beach County is, not the median, but just the average, what they make total in the county, which I believe, and again, I wanted to reserve my comments, but I do want to address this. I'll ballpark it at $45,000, and the average pay at the county might be around somewhere around $75,000. Don't quote me just on that yet, but that's not taking into effect what we do here at the county versus ag workers and other frontline workers. So they're going to try to make the case, and they're very open about this. It's about reducing property taxes. It's about getting an amendment on the ballot. What the exact one that they are openly, and this isn't speculation, this is taking their exact comments, is to fully eliminate property tax for all homesteaded properties. That's their goal right as of now. That could change. My experience at the state, and as well as Commissioner Powell and Commissioner Sachs, once they start digging into the legislative process. But right now, they are creating a narrative so they could tell the voters, we want to eliminate all your property taxes, and this is why.
And the second thing that I said to the gentleman who was interviewing me was, yes, everybody hears that we have a budget that's close to $10 billion, but the taxable part, the ad valorem part of that, is around $2 billion. Half of that goes to our sheriff. About 20% of that goes to fire rescue. What's left, which is not a very large pot, goes to everything else: infrastructure, stormwater, parks and rec, our beaches, roads, that's what infrastructure, roads. And we, as a county, and as a large county of close to 2,400 square miles, have a very big demand on our infrastructure. So we, as a county, need to lay the groundwork for just exactly how much of our budget actually goes to delivering the services that everyone in our county comes here and expects to get. And if we don't collect property taxes, we cannot give any of those services unless somehow the state government figures out another way for that basically $1 billion, actually it's less than that, that we put into services for our residents. Not including, as I said, take out the sheriff, take out fire rescue. It leaves us with less than $1 billion to maintain everything in our 2,400 square miles. So we need to say that more and more and more.
Can I?
Commissioner Powell is first, unless the administrator wants to go. Okay. Commissioner Powell.
I would like to thank you, Madam Mayor, for the opportunity to speak. I would like to echo the sentiments of our administrator and understanding. I want to be tempered in my comments, right? In order to understand what we're going through, you have to understand who the players are and do a little bit of research on who the individuals who we are dealing with are. When you fail to understand who the players are, you run the risk of losing credibility. And in doing so, the new CFO, he went on television, of course, and said eye-popping, without a definition of what eye-popping is, which is not uncommon for individuals in the legislature to do, to throw out a term and not even use a definition. For us to sit here today knowing that we do have, and I believe that our professional staff, many of them are certified, credentialed, and degreed, and most people do not get involved in local government or county government to be wasteful. Most people are not here to make huge salaries, sacrificing their families to waste taxpayer dollars. So I think we need to be tempered and be very careful and continue to do business. Either you're here on business or you have no business here at all. To shift or to pivot everything that we've planned in terms of moving forward based on a 2-day audit by individuals who I'm not sure have certifications in auditing, who are degreed, who have spent the time necessary, and will tell us that it's going to take 60 days with a 2-day audit and to spend a majority of our time to discuss how difficult it could be with their eye-popping findings, I think starts to challenge the staff and the team that we've put together who work on a day-to-day basis on some of these issues. So it would be my recommendation, or it would be my thought process, that we have to do business. We have to continue to move forward. If there's something that comes up that is creditable, that we believe is creditable, then we address it. And if there's something that comes up that is questionable, then we push back on those things that are questionable. We don't sit here and go, Blaise Ngolia, who I've known for nearly a decade or more, has questioned us on some issues, so we need to change everything that we're doing. I don't think that he's spent a lot of time auditing local governments. Now that he's here, and his new charge is to make sure that we we eliminate property taxes, or we make a case for it, we shift everything that we're doing to address his needs or anybody else's. We have a job to do. We have to represent the individuals of Palm Beach County, all of us, whether we're Democrat or Republican. We have a responsibility to our citizens, to our taxpayers, and to those who we serve. And we have to move in that direction. And if there's something that they find that is not credible, we don't sit here and allow it and accept it. We push back. At some point, you push back. We have to protect Palm Beach County. When I was in the legislature, we would go up, most of us, as Democrats and Republicans, but we went up as Palm Beach County. So when there were issues that we fought for together, we were Palm Beach County. We weren't a party. And here, we're Team Palm Beach County. And if there's something that happens that we don't trust, together, we push back. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that goes to what I was saying earlier to FDOT. Don't cut out our funds. What do you expect us to do? But Commissioner Sachs.
I'm going to close this very quickly, and I just want to thank you, Commissioner Powell, for your comments. We went up as Democrats and Republicans, but we served as representatives of Palm Beach County, and that's so true. I think also what we don't realize, and let me state it, and then that'll be it, that we have as a county administrator someone who served on the budget committee in the Florida State Senate. So when someone like Blaise Ngolia does his audit here, he does it with respect to that we have Senator Powell here. We also have one of the top senators as our county administrator. So I think they respect that, and they also respect that we are a Palm Beach County team, and nobody tells us exactly what to do. We've got our jurisdiction here, we got our people here, we got our team together, we move forward as one team, Palm Beach County. Thank you.
Thank you. And in reference to what Commissioner Woodward said, we are in the business of taking care of our residents. We will be voting on our budget next month. What happened with DOJ last week isn't going to affect it right now. It can't. But we have the opportunity in the future to do whatever it is we need to do to make sure that Palm Beach County is in the business of taking care of its residents. Period. End of story. All righty. Anyone else? We're adjourned. Thank you very much.